Welcome back to this cry for help we call a podcast. It's been a few months.
You said that
Must
already.
not be that loud.
You
Did
made
I?
that joke already.
I
once,
don't
yes.
know my own past. Why do you?
Because I watched it. It's the podcast. It's a cooperative cry for help.
It's a cooperative
Welcome
cry
back to
for
the
help.
podcast.
Isn't that
It
just
is a
isn't that
brand new
therapy?
year.
Oh,
No. I don't think you're doing therapy right if you're just calling for help cooperatively.
Well,
Like,
it's
that's not how
cooperative.
that works.
I mean, you're all helpless. You're all fucked. You're not
Also,
helping each
therapy is
other.
not very
that's
cooperative.
easy. That's
There's group therapy.
This is not group
That's still not
therapy, though.
cooperative.
Is
That's
it not
you.
group
You still
therapy?
you
Or
have
is
to
it-
do the therapy.
You're right. It's
you
not
have
therapy.
to do
This
everything.
is this whole show is an intervention for Andrew.
Yes, thank you. Finally. Can I take these posters down now? I'm
Finally,
tired of it in
everyone's
here.
paying attention to me like God
Yes.
intended. Anyway, it's been since November, so some of you might not know we do a podcast. But
Oh my
this is
god,
like,
that's right. You've had a video release.
yeah, no,
and-
it's been so long since the lad podcast. I should do like a recap a bit of what the fuck has happened. So
Last time.
Previously in Dialog
coming up-
choices.
coming up on the end of November, I finished the Ad Astra video essay. So now I've done a fucking. I now have a 6-hour gay furry coming out duology video essay nightmare thing. People are gonna be really disappointed when the next video is just about like a thriller and it's like half an hour long. Like when I just do a normal fucking video about something again and it's not like this like revealing nightmarish exploration of a journey that takes fucking 7 months to write and everything. Like at some point it's gonna be like the Monster Hunter video where I just like write about a thing for a few weeks. I'm like, hey, check out this thing. Anyway, and just make a normal fucking video that isn't like a nightmare to get through. But anyway, I did that, and I had this horrible plan where I thought that I was going to spend the next day binge recording just enough to get to cross the gap of the next trip I was going on. But instead, my CPU was overheating, which I didn't know at
That was
first,
a trip.
but anyway, I was like, my renders were just taking all day. So my proof day where I sit there and I watch every chapter one by one, then render it out, and then render them all combined into one video. Because if you have a 3-hour video essay project, putting it all in one video file and trying to keep editing while it has all of your edits and all of your clips in one project, just like stacks until it's a nightmare. And every time you click on something, it takes like seconds to react and so on. And if you click out of the window and back in, it like stops responding for a while. Like you just start overloading your nightmare because of how much editing you've put into this nightmare. So my solution is to just like every chapter, every few chapters just has its own project file, and so it's just manageable. And also I don't have a nightmare amount of weird assets everywhere.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But also, like, I upload drafts of the chapters for Patreon and for other people to check out, to catch mistakes and things, and also as a Patreon perk, just to preview the stuff, because that's, you're always trying to come up with things for Patreon, well, that you can try to do to justify things besides just the general concept of support. But that always leads to a nightmare day where I then have to rewatch every individual chapter in their final edited form and then render them all back to back, one by one, and it's just an entire day when it's a 3-hour video. And then you render them all as one file afterwards. But the renders were taking forever, and I thought this was just because of the number of, like, the sheer number of assets and video layers and, like, the scrolling background and other shit that are all combined. I thought that was all just making it just add up and take a while. But at one point I restarted my computer to see if it would help, and the computer would not turn back on afterwards because it would launch the BIOS screen and say, hey, CPU over temp, and wouldn't let me restart my computer. I would have to just like wait for a while before I could turn it back on again. It's like, oh, this isn't good.
Yeah, that doesn't sound good.
But I powered through anyway because I didn't have much else that I could deal with, because I had a personal goal to specifically put this video out before MFF. So I just went through with no sleep and suffered. And so I successfully launched the video on time. It had 2 editing mistakes that were added in the final edit, ironically. Like, in the proofing process, I made 2 mistakes that weren't there otherwise. Whoops.
Okay.
I only found one, the one with the song.
Yeah, there's the song mistake, and I haven't watched the video, but Toaster says that during the like post credits thingy, like a take, like I say something twice, like there's 2 takes or something.
Mm.
And
Yeah. I think that I do remember that.
Yeah, but apparently the song thing isn't always massively noticeable because it's like it happened to land in a place that almost sounds like it's on purpose. But what happened is it's supposed I sang the whole section. And then, but I don't use the first part because I'm using the clip from the actual song that I was then. But the thing is, I couldn't use the whole song, that whole part of the song, because it gets flagged. So that's why I sang in the first place. But I split the track to like crop it and remove the part that is the part that I was removing to show the original song for 2 seconds before cutting to the copyright protected version. Haha. And I, instead of deleting it, I just slid it to the left a little bit, and then I forgot about it. So it's just still there, and it plays at the wrong point. It's like a classic Bone Trussell mistake where, like, in my fucking Witness playthrough, Bone Trussell plays for no reason at one point because I was also editing something related to Undertale, I guess, probably, and Bone Trussell, the Papyrus theme song, is just in there somewhere. It was like, it was like on my editing timeline vertically off screen, like towards the bottom, and like scrolled up. So I just didn't know it was there, and so it just plays over a part of my Witness playthrough somewhere. But
that's frustrating, but yeah,
yeah.
I get how that can happen.
Yeah, it's not a good thing. It's not my most popular series or anything. So anyway, like
Wait. Is it the most popular? I thought that was Wasteland 2.
It's Wasteland 2 is not my most popular series. It has my most popular premiere. I don't know how you would quantify what my most popular series is necessarily, but Witness is the series that was popular in a way that made me have a job at this, basically. So it was a big deal. But anyway, I did this giant editing nightmare. I was a zombie and it was horrible, but I did successfully launch the video on the day I intended to, the day before I had to get on a plane and go to Chicago. So that was good. It also had that editing mistake, and I'm like, it's too late. The video's launched. It's doing well. It's been shared everywhere. Like, I can't replace it with a fixed version. I'm just gonna have to live with that. But as a result of all those mistakes, I couldn't do my binge recording day of Let's Plays that I was behind on. So the whole time I'm at MFF, most of my videos just weren't going up because I didn't have them ready. So I'm all the way in Chicago at Midwest Fur Fest having this trip. And like I met like 6 different fans that recognized me along the way, and that was neat. That was a new experience that's never happened before, is being recognized by people that I don't know, that aren't like, oh, I know your dad or something like that. But like in the background, and like there's like 2 stresses, like, how's the video doing? How's the video doing? Will it get compact? I'm like, the whole time I'm panicking that this video is going to get flagged as adult, because my Annihilation video is flagged as adult content and it's not discoverable anymore. You have to like find it for the most part. Some people respond to that by saying, I saw it, but it's like that video had got picked up by the algorithm massively, and then was instantly dead the moment it suddenly got reclassified as adult content. And ever since, it gets like 50 views a day, when it was on track to get like hundreds of thousands overall. Like there's like a tiny trickle. So you're very special, and the internet has decided that you get super adult content if it's suggested to you, apparently, or you've watched all of my other videos collectively. But so like, this is the beginning of the story, though, of like me in the background being stressed by my backlog having completely diminished in nothing, because I crunched so hard for like 2 weeks to finish this Ad Astra essay. So as I'm getting back, fucking Thanksgiving plans start Thanksgiving was right before, but like I get hit by early Christmas plans, where for some reason my family celebrates Christmas like 2 weeks early or some shit, and then like having all these technical issues, and I'm dealing with the fact that like I have to deal with the fact that like that CPU thing is happening. So I'm like, okay, we got to fix this now before I start like having like, because I was recording Resident Evil 4, and I was at the part with the fucking Greys and the part with the invincible dudes, and it just started like performing like shit, and it was always saying that my encoder was overloaded in OBS. I'm like, oh, this is bad. I need to deal with this now, and it must be getting worse. And so I open this thing up, and I'm already stressed out about how behind on everything I am, and like every single stage of the story starting here is me like it's like me psyching myself up of like, okay, today we're fucking going. This is my big intense, like, we're recording so much shit today and this whole week's gonna be so productive, and every single time something goes wrong, and it's so hard to motivate yourself to like problem solve and get into some other technical thing when you were so ready to do this other thing, and you're stressed about like how that's not going to happen now, and how you're getting further behind, and why is another thing going wrong, and so on. So like I had also ordered, because Toaster was joking about how I'm still using a 1070 all these years later, so I ordered a 3080, and I had to order a new power supply to go with the 3080 because my other one wasn't strong enough, and I needed to deal with the thermal paste for the CPU. So I have like a to-do list. I'm like, okay, we'll start with the CPU. We'll start with the power supply, because that like hooks into everything, so you don't want to have to move anything afterwards and so on. So that's the first thing we'll do. And I open up my back panel of my tower, and I'm just reacquainted with the nightmare octopus that is the fucking power supply in a computer, and like. And I remember all these warnings about like, hey, this is super easy and plug and play, but also if you do anything wrong, it can brick your stuff, and everything's broken now. Fuck you. And like, to my credit, I did build this PC, so I'm not a complete rube, but I also don't remember anything that I did. So given infinite time and a calm setting and not being under stressful timelines and stuff, I could probably get this all in working order again, like I did last time, because I did build this computer this time myself, like 2 or 3 years ago. But when I see the task before me, I just fucking like lay down on my back on the carpet and stare at the ceiling for an hour. I just am like,
oh my god,
dead. Like fucking, I can't even begin to think about this. It's so fucking stressful.
Yeah.
So I just called up Marty, and he was raiding that night, so I drove all the way back to where I used to live, and I hang out in Marty's living room with Ashley until his raid's over, and he deals with my power supply and my graphics card, and just like solves this for me, because he's a saint like that, and is always like up for projects and things. And I think he used to work at a computer shop, so he likes getting back into that here and there when the thing comes up. So thank God that's all installed. He finishes at like 1 a.m. or something, and I'm like, I don't want to waste any more of his time. And I'm like, all that's left is I just gotta reseat the CPU, which is the original problem, besides this side project. And that's easy. It's just thermal paste. Like I did that before.
Well, that was the tentative solution.
It was supposed to be the easy thing anyway.
Yeah.
But I try to find thermal paste the next morning, and Best Buy, the Best Buy I used to go to doesn't exist anymore. That was the first supply. So then I just Google like computer parts or something, and I find like a hobby store, and this dude said, like, I've always seen thermal paste in syringes. This guy gives me thermal paste that it's like and it seems like it's like a different color inside, and it's in like little rippable bags.
Yeah.
Every single person I talked to after that was like, what the fuck is that? I don't trust that. Like, I think Marty and Toaster was like, I've never sseen that before. And I'm like, I don't feel good I don't feel good about trusting that this is the right thing for this thing, because some guy sold it to me for it was like $1, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm like, maybe I should be worried about this.
It's probably not good, but I have seen that before. I like definitely wouldn't have recommended to use it, but it's not out of the ordinary.
But I got nervous about the fact that it was something abnormal, and people that know more about stuff than me were nervous about it, and I'm like, I'm afraid to put this in my computer. So I drive all the way back out to Best Buy, and I buy their expensive ass like $20 syringe. I don't know how much it was, but it was more money. I don't know how much it was. I don't remember numbers generally. But I bought their syringe of paste that they have there. And brought that all the way back home, and I go through the process like, okay, let's fucking unseat this cooler and sit here and fucking alcohol swab it for an hour and deal with all this, and then
and it's a pain in the ass because it's an AM5 socket, so the pressure that you need to put on the thing is absurd.
Oh, there's like multiple. There's a series of things that happen here, which is that like one problem is that I have a really the water cooler I have has a really irritating assembly that falls apart when you take it apart and requires hooking onto it like from above and beneath, but like it has like the connector is a loose piece that doesn't attach to the cooler or the CPU like in any sort of permanent or even like solid way. Like you just have to hook it together all at once correctly and then it stays, and it's like horrible. Like at one point one of the pieces just got away inside the computer and I had to like slowly try to tilt the computer apart around and try to find it without like shaking it around.
You play that ball game where you have to move the board like around to get miserable. The piece out.
And so I put the CPU paste in, and I hate this part a bit because one, you have a weird liquidy thing that is designed to create contacts between things. So if it creates contacts between things on something else on your computer, it can fry it. So that's bad.
No, it's not. It's not.
It's also like, is it not?
No,
I've been lied to by every YouTube video. All the YouTube videos lie to me. But what I hate about this part of the process is that it's like a weird subjective thing. Like CPUs seem to all be the same size, and yet they aren't. CPU paste is not sold in a distributable way where you can just put the exact correct amount on your CPU. It's always like, here's a giant syringe of like whatever amount, figure it out, make a guess. What do you think's the correct amount? And everyone online is just arguing with each other instead of having answers. Exactly. You're like, why does everyone have opinions? Like, I like to do the plaid pattern. Well, I like to draw Stussy. You know, like fucking what? Why are there not answers?
The answer is as long as you put some, you're good to go.
So I put CPU paste.
The answer's easy. It's in your stupid fucking CPU manual. It tells you how to do this. There's a rule. There's a literal
different
rule
CPUs
how to
recommend
do this.
different things.
No, they don't. Correct. Every CPU recommends you do the 5 dots.
No, like
one dot in each corner and one in the center.
Yeah, the Threadrippers have like a specific thing, and the AMD ones that have different CXS.
Every AMD tells you to put 5 dots on your CPU. I have just bought like 3 different CPUs recently.
What's a dot?
A dot is however much you want that doesn't look insane. Like basically, the dot
that's
is
not
true.
real. That's not a scientific measurement. There ain't. What's the significant figures on this one?
Okay, finally, it should be the size.
Remember
of your
sig
dots
figs,
should
y'all?
Fine. The size should be the size of a pea, like a pea, just a small little
I don't
pea
eat
dot.
peas.
That's the size.
Also, peas are big.
Oh my god. No, they're not.
Small.
They are not.
Like
Do not lie to yourself. Peas are
big. In the context of a CPU, they're big.
No, they're
not big like to eat, but peas are big old blobos. Look at this fucking picture. Here's some peas.
Look,
boom.
You put
they're gargantuan. You wouldn't put 5 peas on your CPU. Your CPU is gonna be caked.
No, you can't.
It's gonna be It's gonna be an entire Oreo of CPU.
You can cake it all up.
It's gonna just be like,
fine.
The filling's gonna be spewing out like red velvet.
It is. It does.
Fine. Then if you're that worried about it, you can just put 1 pea size amount on the center, and
that's what I do.
I thought 1 pea size in the center was the correct thing. Yeah, like 5 peas sounds like insane bullshit that Andrew is lying about, and everyone who's ever had an opinion about CPUs is gonna yell at us in the comments, and it's gonna somehow be my fault, but it's your fault.
100%. You guys are crazy. I've been doing this all my entire life, and I've never had a problem with CPUs.
The number of times we get a comment about how you guys are so wrong about something, and it's just Andrew, or it's just Colonel, or it's just me. Like we're a collective that all have the same thoughts when we're arguing most of the time.
But it's true. As long as you put some stuff in there, you're good to go. A lot or a little. There's videos on YouTube where people actually test nothing and like no thermal paste, and it's a little bit warmer. It still works. It's fine.
But anyway, what happened?
How about someone does it under glass and you can see how good it is?
I have seen that stuff. That is like the best. That's better than anything that all the fucking forums come up with. But anyway,
there is a rule to this.
What happened is I put my thermal paste on, I reseeded the whole thing. I'm like, good, that was easy. Back to my life. Time to do a big binge day where I do my job, and I'm gonna be so back on track after weeks of being stressed about this. I turn on my computer, I start recording a video. Immediately the recorder's overloading immediately. And then I turn off my computer and restart it, and it's like CPU over temp. I'm like, why? The They're like, so the suggestion I get from our Discord is just to try again at the thermal paste. And I'm like, okay, I guess I'll just try again. So this time I go to pull off the cooler, and it rips my entire CPU out of my computer.
Oof.
Just the whole thing, just right out. It's just stuck to the actual cooler with this caked layer of thermal paste. And I'm like, so unprepared for this moment to happen. And I'm just looking at all those exposed shitty contacts. I'm like, oh no. And then I sit there and
don't bend those. If you bend those, it's bad.
Yeah, I know. And I poke at the CPU.
Dropped the CPU like that.
I poke at the CPU chip sticking out of the bottom of this giant thing, and it's like, it's just fused on. Like I can't budge it at all with my finger. And I'm like, so what I do is the CPU's the cooler's obviously still hooked into the rest of my computer and so on. But like I just lay it on the side of my computer so that the CPU doesn't touch anything, and then I just lay on the floor.
Damn, this floor's getting a lot of use.
It's just such a shutdown of what I think the day is going to be, and I'm just like, here's a new nightmarish problem to deal with. Where not like I was already trying to deal with another problem, and I've somehow managed to add a new problem. But I'm eventually able to very gingerly and slowly pry this expensive chip off of the fucking paste cake that I put on it, which really earning the word paste there for thermal paste because it's acting like a glue. It was brutal. And of course I have to re-clean it all and all that, and I have to deal with all that mess. And I just fucking give up, and I just go back to Marty's again that night. Like, fuck it. Please, what the fuck is going on? And it's a good thing I did, because it doesn't seem like the thermal paste was me doing. It doesn't seem like I did that wrong. It seems like instead what happened is that he redid the thermal paste, and then it was working. But then he checked something else and laid the computer down and then set it back up, and then it wasn't working again. And it was like, wait, what happened? And we kept finding that like every other time he would like do anything with the computer, it would work or not work in ways that didn't make sense. And it seemed to be that like I think we came to the conclusion that there was air bubbles in the water pump. And so it was the cooler itself that it was still functioning and was pumping and everything and it was on, but like I think there was water bubbles that would there was air bubbles that would move from like attempt to attempt and like into like functioning and non-functioning positions, which is why the computer also just had intermittent problems in general. And eventually we just give up and just like he had already same day ordered this giant air cooler, and so he just said fuck it and installed that instead. So now I've got an air cooler that takes up like 90% of the inside of my computer now, but now my computer works all the time and everything's great. And my new my new GPU works, everything works, and I'm never trusting water cooling again. Every time someone suggests new technology, I'm like, no, I'm a stone man.
Air cooling is amazing. It's quieter a lot of the time. It's a lot more reliable. And it just fills up a lot of space. If you have space for it, there's really no reason, unless you're like doing super like hardcore overclocking of your CPU or something like that.
And like Toaster was like, now your Vegas renders are gonna go so fucking fast, and then they didn't. They stayed the same speed despite having such a more powerful GPU. And I'm like, what's up with this? So I just Googled how make Vegas gooder on YouTube, and it just like gives you a bunch of weird arcane settings to bring up via secret menus and like turn off this and turn this on, and suddenly your computer just works better. And I'm like, why? Yeah. Why? Why? I don't understand why. Like, is Vegas just failing to detect how good my computer is and using it correctly, or is it just like, are these like bizarre safety mechanics to like help with like film projects that are relevant to me? I have no idea, because I couldn't, only some of the settings I kind of knew what they did, but definitely rendering way faster now. So anyway, this giant headache of like 2 to 3 weeks of constant crunch to finish the video on time for my deadline, a solid week of going to Chicago for Midwest Fur Fest, this intermittent technical problem thing happening here.
You're finally ready.
All this leads us right to Christmas. And the day after Christmas, we have an all day movie hangout because I'm trying to like be social and friendly and everything, and we're all gonna get along and whatnot. And like, let's watch Glass Onion, and we watched that one Santa, but he's an action movie man, from that has the guy from Stranger Things in it, the cop.
Okay.
And like some stuff like that. Glass Onion's fucking great. I had a great time with that. And also they made the detective gay, and that now the best movie character of this decade is gay, so fuck everybody. Ha. Anyway, the next day I have the flu. So I didn't know they were sick.
Well,
and so like after all this shit I've gone to get back on track to finally work and get anything going, I get the flu. And I feel miserable for 2 days, but after that I feel fine. But for 2 weeks, basically, I can't speak for more than a couple minutes at a time without just devolving into nothing. Like, it's horrible. Like, I cannot record. I can't do the core element of what I do for a living. So I'm forced to just watch my what meager backlog I had from my intermittent 2 days of getting to record a little bit. I have some Captain Toad and some Taiji recorded, and that's just gonna coast my channel 1 video per day, and for like just for like 2 weeks straight of being like, well, I'm just helpless. I can't. Sorry guys, I literally cannot work. I'm just sitting here like drawing and stuff because I can't. I have a forced. All my forced vacations are like me feeling bad, so not even good vacations.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Yeah. But it's just like, the number of things that had to happen back to back, none of them at the same time, that all separately fucked with my backlog. Like, I just finished recording Yakuza 5's finale recently, and I look back and I saw that the fucking premiere was in like August. And I'm like, that series has been going on for way too long because of how many fucking interruptions have happened. No. But anyway, the happy ending of all this, I guess, is that after all this stuff is finally over, I just hit the ground running the moment I could fucking speak again, to the point where some of the early stuff is a bit borderline. But this week, let's see, going from last Sunday up through Saturday, I recorded 54 videos.
That's videos. It's not half an hour or hours.
I count half an hour as a video, so every hour-long video is 2 videos, because I have a weekly quota of 20, and the only way to make that make sense is to come up with a system that I basically took like how many overall videos are in a week duration-wise, and I calculated that out. So it's like 20 a week, not counting multiplayer stuff ish. And so like my goal is to always do 20 every week to maintain my backlog, but my backlog has been behind by at the time of the beginning of the week, it was behind by 50, and so I had a lot to do. And like I think when I finished the Monster Hunter video, it took like a month to get back on schedule. And when I finished the Lego Sheet video, it took like 2 or 3 months, because I was even more behind than last time, and also a bunch of disruptive stuff was happening in life because of what that video was. It was distracting. But this time, like, I was behind by 50, and I recorded 54 videos this week, which sounds like catching up, but you add 20 every week, so I'm now
10 behind.
Yeah, so 54. So that means the 20, it means that I got rid of the entire backlog of 50, but I only got 4 of the 20 videos done for that week, essentially. So I'm behind by 16 instead of 50 now.
16, yeah.
So now my goal this week is 36 instead of 50. Or instead of 70.
That's still a lot.
Well, it's 36 instead of 70. So like that's how much of a dent I essentially made it, because of how it goes. So this week I'll be back on track. Hooray. And then I can start thinking about the next video essay and just never fucking stop burning, apparently. So anyway, that was my giant spree of catch up backstory. But besides that, the number of reasons why we haven't had a podcast since November is because on top of all that stuff I just described, there has in the various gaps and other exceptions where we could have done this podcast. There's been weeks where I think Colonel went on one business trip. I think Andrew had computer problems for like 2 weeks, so he didn't have a computer basically. And then also, we also ended up deciding to record Resident Evil Outbreak instead of the podcast in this time slot so that we can get through that, because we've had like an influx of more people hanging out for multiplayer stuff on the weekends. There's no opening for Resident Evil Outbreak anymore. But we realized that 3 of the 4 people in the Outbreak cast are just the podcast people now. So we just do it instead of the podcast for like a month, and then we'd be done with that game. And but this week Toaster's not here, so we're doing the podcast.
Yes. Yeah. No, my computer troubles were not fun in the least. I made a grave mistake, and I have learned a lot from that mistake.
Tell us everything. This is the Computer Problems podcast now.
Sure. So my decision was that I had my previous computer for almost 4 years, because I guess we all time traveled when the pandemic started, and so I decided that it was kind of time. I've been trying to push myself to make like, I don't know, like I do streaming and recording most of the stuff that I do, and I tried to record everything in 4K, which is unnecessary, but I like doing it. It gives me a lot of leeway when I'm editing stuff. And so one of the problems that comes up is the same thing Keith is having, which is like a lot of encoder overloads. My poor computer goes like, I don't know, man, this is a lot of work. I'm doing like playing a game, recording a game, streaming a game, and then like also playing that game on a high setting. So like, please leave me alone. I'm just one person. And so my decision was to create a PC with 2 graphics cards in it. I wanted my old graphics card from my current computer, and then I wanted a new graphics card, which would be better. And on top of that, I decided, well, that's going to be incredibly hot to have 2 graphics cards running. But also, I want them to be pushed to their limits. I want them to be overclocked really hard, and I want to be able to make sure that I can get like the most value out of these parts. I want to make sure that when I get a new computer next time, God forbid, that these parts are like burnt to crisp. Like I want them completely tarnished. And in order to do that without having to buy a new computer like next week would be to liquid cool it completely. Just a custom 100% custom made water cooling loop. And I have never done that before. Never in my life have I ever even tried. It's very expensive. I had no appeal to it because it was like, whatever, man. I need one graphics card, one CPU, and my life is done. So I decided it was time to be a terrible human and push myself to do it. And it was tough, not great. I ran into troubles literally every fucking step of the way. And I think I spent more time waiting for parts to arrive than I spent on building the computer itself, which is also frustrating.
That is the worst part. Like I guess just about computer stuff in general, like the surgery you have to do on the most expensive thing you own and all that. But like, fucking, the moment you're like, okay, I need this for my job, and then something's wrong. Like, okay, I can't solve this problem now. Like the moment the thing goes wrong, you're like, well, time to research what I need and order stuff online, and then just fucking wait. It's the worst part.
It's and so what's even more frustrating is that when you're doing liquid cooling, there becomes these very nice components that are like, they're not, I guess they're valves technically. They're like small little parts that you plug the tubing into, and it goes into each part, or it goes into each piece, right? So you have an intake and an outtake valve for each, like the CPU, the GPU, and whatever, and the cooling fans. And so you need to get parts for each of those, and so you have to do like a lot of this mental math of like, okay, I have 2 radiators and each radiator has 2 ports. I have a CPU and 2 GPUs, so that's like 6 ports. Then I have this thing on the back that like efficiently distributes the liquid. So that has like 6 ports on it, and then I also need to account for the fact that the pump itself has 2 ports on it, as well as like. And so, like, okay, well, how many valves do I need, and what sizes and what shapes? Because you obviously can't just get them all straight; they have to curve sometimes to bend in certain ways. It's just like so much shit that would be so much easier if you could have like a 3D
Parts
visual representation of this and be
Or
like,
that.
this is the computer I want. And so yeah, like I ordered this. I waited till Black Friday, got a good deal, ordered this huge box of like fucking liquid cooling parts, and had realized I made several mistakes. Like I had gotten the wrong water block for one of my GPUs. I had accidentally bought 2 CPU water blocks, and I didn't need that. I had like comically less amount of valves than I absolutely needed in order to like make this successful. And so I just had to sit there and like recoup so much stuff to get it all figured out. And then I do that. I do all this hard work. I get it all up and running. Fantastic. It's working. Except it doesn't. It won't run any game without crashing immediately with an error. And so now I have to do the fun task of diagnosing, okay, please God, don't let this be my CPU, because I don't want to have to take this apart again. Because if I have to take it apart, I need to drain the stupid system. I need to take it apart, which means I have to take the tubing out. I need to move stuff. I need to like, you can't fully drain anything, by the way, either. You have to like basically endure some little bit of liquid coming out. Like you can kind of, the best way you can do is you can open the valve and then use an air pump to push the air through, like push air through it, and then thus push the water out. But you're still going to end up with some water left over that you're going to have to clean up. And it's just, it sucks. So thankfully the CPU was bad, so I needed to do all of those things. And so I had to, well, it taught me a lot. And so I had to go and do all of that. So I needed to not only did I need to buy a brand new CPU, which by the way is not fun because they're expensive, but also again, you need to like go through the hassle of taking a whole bunch of shit apart, like Keith was talking about. Like it's attached in the back and the front, and you have all this wiring now, and it's a nightmare to do all this just so you can take one small little square out of a computer and be like, you're dumb, and throw it away, like, and just put a new one in there.
You couldn't RMA it?
No, there's no. Well, I know. I'm returning it. I'm returning it to get my money back, obviously. But I meant like you're just taking a small little pice off of this computer. It's not asking for much. Like, so it's frustrating. And I was stupid. I didn't properly set it up correctly the first time, so I had no good way of draining the liquid. I didn't set up a proper drain valve system. So I had to like tip the computer sideways and then push air through it and hope that like it would all come out of the right hole eventually. And it's just, it sucked. I would like honestly, if I was to do it again, I am confident I can do it much better, but also I would probably like still cry about the idea that I have to do it again. It's awful. It's just very frustrating. And trying to fit or sandwich a lot of the stuff in there is also not great. Like I had to make tubes that were like the size of my thumb just to like fit between 2 different parts that are so fucking close to each other. And I don't know. It was a lot of work, but eventually after getting all of that finished, all of that set up, I still ran into issues. I still had to go through like 7 hurdles to try and get this whole computer to work, just because there were so many, like, just like with Vegas for Keith, there's so many little minute settings I had to change inside of my BIOS in order to make it work with 2 CPUs and do all these other little things, and just all of this to culminate into a machine that is capable of recording what I want it to record. But then also realizing that, like, most of it was really just, I was asking, like, realistically, a lot of the problem was I was asking too much of one card, right? Having one card be both the brains, or be both, like, the brains, the eyes, and like, the and keeping track of everything was just too much to ask of it. It's not feasible to expect one card to do so many things at one time. And so all I needed to really do was add a second GPU. I didn't technically need to do all the other stuff. And although it was a good idea to upgrade the CPU because I stream using that. So like the GPU is used as the streamer, so it takes all the brunt of that. And then I have the second GPU as my recording device, and then that way I have my main GPU, my good one, as being the one that is playing the game. Because the one that's recording is doing no work. It is literally coasting through its entire life right now. When I press record, it sits there and it's like, ooh, I'm at 80%. I'm okay. Meanwhile, my regular GPU is like screaming in pain. It's like, my God, this game is so intensive. I'm trying my best. Please leave me alone. And like, and so, yeah, it's perfect. It's beautiful. I can just sit there and offload all of like the hardest work onto another card. Whereas before I was trying to like balance 4 different, just like, it was awful. I didn't need to go overboard. I did. I felt it's like really great, actually. I love this computer. It's also very cool. It feels like it would be a very hot computer, but I was very smart in getting 2 different 2 radiators, so that way it has it's cooling it very efficiently. So like the hot so I have the way that I have the loop set up is that I have all of the hot liquid, I guess. I don't know how you call this. All of the used liquid. Ooh, gross. All of the used liquid goes into one radiator and then goes into the pump. And then from the pump goes into another radiator and then starts going into the components. So I'm like double cooling it before it gets there to make sure it is absolutely 100% as cool as it possibly can get, which I think makes it so that way when it does come out through the fans, it's not nearly as hot coming out as it would be otherwise. Like before, I can feel it now. Like even when I'm playing games, I'll like put my hand over it. And before, I could literally probably cook eggs on how hot this poor computer was running before. But now I can usually I can put my hand over and be like, oh, it's kind of warm. Like it's nice, but it's not like hot. It's not running hot. But yeah, no, it's I don't recommend I think making your own computer is pretty fun and cool, but it is definitely like a stress inducer. Like I did the same thing as Keith, where I literally had I did it in a more scary way, but I had at a table with the computer sitting on top of it, and I was literally laying on the ground working on the back and the front of the computer that way. And there were just times where I would do something and like liquid would fall out and hit me, and I'd just like lay there and just like my brain would just turn off. I would go floating in space somewhere and just be like, wow, why did I do this? What's happening? This is awful. And then just go back at it again. It's just it is the nature of it. You need to go into doing
misery.
Like if you're gonna build a computer, sometimes you have to just accept that it is not going to go well, and that you need to be very patient when you go back into it. You don't want to just if you're frustrated, you don't want to be building it frustrated, because you're going to make these mistakes and it's going to just culminate and snowball. So it's just sometimes you need to something goes wrong, just lay on the floor, just lay there. It'll be fine. Just take a breath, go fuck this, man. This is awful. And then get back right at it again. It's just, that sometimes that's just what you have to do. So, and that, that's from 2 different levels of experience. I've been building computers my entire life since I watched someone overcharge me for a custom built computer the first time. And I said, never again. I'll never let you do that to me. And then I've been building my own computer ever since. And even I still need to lay on the floor. So don't feel bad if you get frustrated building a damn computer. Things are awful. They're nightmare machines. They're easy because they all fit into the right slot, but they'll find ways to break your heart in other ways.
There's also a lot of parts that suspiciously don't seem to fit, but they are fitting, but they don't seem like they're fitting, and it feels like you're going to break it.
Yeah. There's one of the most nerve-wracking parts I hate is when you put the CPU in and you have to pull the little lever to tighten it. I always I know I've done it right. I always double check, but every time I pull the thing, I'm like, I'm going to fuck this whole thing up. I'm just going to bend every pin right now, because it feels like a lot of force you're putting in to secure a thing that literally just one small bent pin is hundreds of dollars down the drain. That's terrifying.
Yeah.
And CPUs are no different.
Does a lot of the stress,
Yeah, like CPUs are held together by a thin little fucking board on the edge of it that you got to slot in, and you got to really slot it in, like push hard on that thing, and you're like, but if
Oh,
it
the
snaps,
GPU.
that's it. The GPU, sorry, yeah, the GPU. Yeah, the GPU
Yeah,
is
the
like
GPU
it's
is
the same way.
a bit stressful where you're sliding it into against two walls simultaneously, and it never seems to quite fit.
Yeah,
There's always something wrong, or it won't quite go in all the way, and you're like, do I just push harder? Because
and I had that problem myself too, where I put my second CPU my second GPU I put in wasn't slotted correctly because I didn't push it in hard enough. And so I was just like, I was like, oh no, it's not registering. Did I break something? What happened? And I go in there, I'm like, oh, there it is. The little part sticking out because it didn't push hard enough, and you just push it back in. It's just like and it starts getting worse too. Like Keith was talking about the cabling, like the back of my computer, which is thankfully closed and sealed and no one can see it, is just awful. It looks like someone just like,
oh yeah,
it's like spaghetti back there, and I hate it. But the front of it is the front of it's very clean, very beautiful. You wouldn't even notice that there were cabling going on in there. But the back is just a nightmare, and it's like it keeps getting.
It's awful because there's so many things that can only reach in a specific direction, and that's the only way that it'll make it from there to there. While also having the problem of like needing to lay them, like you can't even like bundle them up into braids with each other because you have to like lay them all out in a frayed mess across the entire inside of your back of your computer so that you can close the back of your computer because it has to be flat enough. So you can't even like have special sorting systems really.
Cable management is a mixture of having a expensive enough power supply that has good length cables and also a tremendous amount of patience because cable management is like if you let it can take you 70 or 80% of the build time just in messing around with the cables. I've definitely spent hours on my cable management on my PC, and that's like every time I change something inside, the cable management is what I'm like, okay, this afternoon I'm gonna be zip tying everything down again because I like it to be tidy. Basically, it doesn't need to be tidy. I've made computers where the cables are all over the shop. It's fine.
I'm never gonna look back there. It's the closed part of the computer.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's and you know people also can just be it's your own thing, right? It's depending on however much. If I was to give you any good advice and recommendation, don't do RGB. Get a solid closed case. No one gives a shit. I'll be honest with you. No one gives a shit. Like it's cool. You can post on Instagram. You'll get a like or whatever, but nobody gives a shit how the side of your computer, like how inside. I
immediately set the RGB in my computer and in my keyboard to like a dull purple. It just stays there solid.
That's
I don't know
what RGB is for.
I don't understand anyone that just leaves it in fucking rainbow mode all day and all night. Like how does it not fucking draw your attention? It's a flashing light you put in front of you.
No, if it's on the PC. My PC is on rainbow mode because I can't.
One of my housemates has an RGB fucking mat. Like the rim of their mouse pad keyboard mat has an RGB rim and it's always rainbow cycling. And I'm like, what the fuck? This is torture. Why are there changing lights around you all the time? Everything needs to be purple forever.
Mine's the same way. Mine is a nice. It's a little bit brighter, but mine is a nice purple, more like a black light purple, and that's fine. I don't need it to do any fancy stuff. It doesn't like blink, doesn't flash, doesn't do anything. I did admittedly do this I did admittedly go a little bit overboard. I bought like the liquid cooling I put in there is also colored purple, so it's like a whole purple machine. But it's also just it's basically just for me though. Like I have it down here where only I can see it. It's not like in camera when I'm streaming or anything. It is literally my own little personal enjoyment. And it's not really that great. Like it's not really that worth it. I look at it sometimes and go like, wow, that's pretty cool. But it doesn't matter. And the cabling I had to do to make all of those like RGBs work was definitely not worth it. There's so many goddamn cables for every stupid little RGB thing. And like, some pieces are like tiny little thin strips of RGB, and I gotta like fit tiny cables into holes, and just it's a nightmare just to make a thing look purple. Why? I don't care that much. And so just like don't worry about that. If you're trying to win a beauty competition, go for it. If not, you just want a good, affordable, strong PC, don't even bother with RGB. Kind of laugh it away. Just like someone says, what color does it turn? Gross. Why would you ask that? It's dumb. I hate both.
That's for you in the privacy of your own bedroom where your computer is.
Exactly. No one needs to know what goes on between you and your computer. It is awful. But yeah, but I will say, like, there's again, because I've been building computers all my entire life, I've seen this like progressional increase in, like, especially cables, and RGB is just a fucking mess. It is not good in any capacity. Like the like plugs that you have to plug it into are really chunky and don't like fit very well in certain spots. It's very limited on how many you can have, so you constantly need to be getting like extenders for it if you want more than one RGB thing. It's just such a headache for literally no value.
The RGB that was attached to like my I think it was my CPU liquid cooler fans that were on the roof or whatever. Like the only way to change the color of them was a remote that interrupts the cable in the back of the computer.
Oh.
You had to like manually toggle through them all.
Yeah, that's the. And so
it's the set it and forget it approach.
Yeah.
Yeah, and ultimately it doesn't impact anything. You also, if you want to be like overly snobby about it, you have to go get software that manages and controls the lights, which means you're adding bloatware to your computer for no reason and no value other than to control one RGB that you literally don't see. It's so worthless. I'm not trying to dog anybody who likes RGB. That's great for you. But just like somebody who puts RGB on a car, you'll find yourself having a lot more headache just to get this visual vibe than you would if you just than you would if you just had a regular ass computer.
So you just give me flashbacks to when Elon Musk was famously stupid for other reasons. Who wants to die in the gamer tunnel?
I mean,
wait, did he say that?
I mean, it's still
the tunnel hasn't gone anywhere. I think it's still there in Vegas, right? There's just the gamer tunnel.
Yeah, it's still in Vegas.
It's just a nightmare single vehicle pointless thing that's RGB lit, and just like every boring ass basic gamer that's a giant tasteless fool, it's set to default fucking rainbow cycle. Not even cool mood lighting in the gamer tunnel. It's just fucking rainbow cycling all the time. Who the fuck? That's like leaving your TV on its default settings that it was there just to try to sell it on the show floor, which is hyper saturated, hyper contrast with frame smoothing, and it's all this stuff to make it look like your movies are cool video games, but it actually makes the videos look worse. And it's why all of you were complaining you couldn't see the fucking Game of Thrones episode because it's too dark. It's like, you don't calibrate your fucking TVs. You left it on the show off mode. Your default rainbow TV, and you fucking losers. I don't actually have that strong of an opinion here. I just you know how like on YouTube you like exaggerate your emotion for effect, and then people get genuinely mad because they think you care.
You're being
and you're not like doing a bit.
I am that asshole who like I sat down and spent like an hour calibrating a TV to.
I have turned off multiple people's frame smoothing without telling them on their TVs, and they've not noticed. They didn't notice, but I did.
Yeah,
nothing's worse than watching fucking Into the Spider-Verse with frame smoothing.
Oh no!
It's almost like where the frame rate is literally doing storytelling.
Yeah, it is funny too. Like there's TVs do tend to be like overproduced but also less.
TV
it's like
shows?
they're overproduced but less powerful. No, like TVs themselves have like way too much going on, but they're not actually good in the ways you want them to be anymore. Like trying to just calibrate your TV to look good is not fun anymore. It is like a mess. No one does it consistently. It's just awful. But every TV has this shitty like menu system at the bottom where it shows you icons and it shows like, oh, you could check out these shows, and it's like ads and stuff, and you're like, oh, I'm glad we all unified on how to make it look ugly, but we can't unify on how to like quality set the video settings. Like, fantastic, guys. Really putting all the effort here. It's awful. I hate modern TVs. Modern TVs are just a pain in the ass. I don't know. Everything is just awful somehow. Like, everyone just like, we had some kind of drought. I don't know what happened, but we had a drought of like UI and UX designers. They all just left the planet somehow. They all just like ceased existing, and now we're just stuck with like the worst. Yeah, we're like stuck with the worst interfaces for everything all the time. And I'm like, what happened to you people? What is going on? Just like, please think about me using it. Think about anybody using this. Like, have a human use this in front of you and see what happens.
Yeah.
Like, it's
otherwise, you get the Xbox One and whatever the fuck its menus were. I genuinely could not figure out. As somebody who never consistently used the Xbox One, every time I tried again, I could not tell how to get anywhere or do anything. I just gave up.
I still have the problem.
At one point, we were on a stream and we were playing Halo Master Chief Collection because we streamed like all the games back to back and in split screen co-op. Yeah. And at one point, we like opened like the fucking achievement blade dashboard thing on the side of the screen, and we couldn't figure out how to make it go away.
Stuck.
We didn't know. Like, how do we get rid of this? Like, we have to like Google because we don't even know how we got it. It won't leave us alone. It's like suggesting
an achievement.
It's like all it does is like suggest achievements to hunt for or something, and it takes up like it takes up like a third of the screen. It's like, fuck off! I'm playing a video game. Why? Who are these for?
It's still bad. Like, I use an Xbox One I use an Xbox Series X every day, every single day.
The weird refrigerator. It's like a wine cooler.
And yeah, exactly.
Like a cooler for wine, not a wine cooler. Naming is good.
I still don't know how to use the menu.
Wine coolers are drinks, but a cooler for wine is also a wine cooler.
I think they call them wine fridges, technically.
Wine fridge,
yeah. Just to make it easier to understand, because Americans are awful with language.
And don't ask me what a wine cooler actually is, because I don't drink enough to care.
I've never heard of it.
It doesn't matter. It's
nothing matters.
It doesn't.
It's.
I mean, yeah.
Wine is like
we were ragging
I don't want to get
into
into
Xbox
it, but
interface.
like what? Like, okay, so a good example of a wine cooler would be like a White Claw. And
wait,
I'm
what?
sure that's gonna like a White Claw counts as a wine cooler.
Isn't that just like isn't that just a beer?
No, it's like a
what?
Not a seltzer, but it's a
White
like
Claws aren't seltzers, are they? Aren't they just
basically.
beers?
I'll Google it.
No, seltzers are just like the carbonated beer, I guess you could say.
Is White Claw carbonated? I've had White Claw before and I don't remember.
I know what that is.
I don't know if
it's
White
like
Claw
sangria
is, but
except without the.
I don't practice sangria.
Basically, it is like a sangria. Again, it doesn't matter. It's like it's the most non-interesting topic ever, which is like
yes,
cool,
let's rag on the
college alcohol. It's just it's like, well, I mean, like look, if you go to any college and you ask for a beer of some kind, they're gonna give you a damn wine cooler because that's just what they do. So they're very.
You ask for beer, they give you a wine cooler. Oh, interesting.
Yeah, they'll just hand you like a White Claw or like a Smirnoff or something. It's just like they don't like most people don't just drink a regular shitty Coors Light. Like no one, I don't know, people who've given up on life tend to do that. But
we're coming for you.
Don't drink like I don't know, whatever. Don't drink canned beer.
Don't drink. Like, period.
No, don't drink canned beer.
Like if you're drinking canned beer, dude, you're like this is the bottom you can get. You're scraping it. Like the only way you could go any lower is if you drink like toilet wine. Like that's the lowest you can possibly.
But then
get.
you get
toilet wine is a real
Pauly.
thing. Yeah, that's Pauly's thing. What is toilet wine? Is that actually Googling?
Yeah, toilet wine is.
Toilet wine.
Okay, and again, I don't want to get into it. Toilet wine is not great.
No.
You're never gonna have to drink it in your entire life, so don't worry about it.
Oh
and
no!
It's awful. But the point being,
includes crumbled bread. No.
Yeah.
Oh no! I opened the Wikipedia page for it. It's called Pruno.
Yeah, you should not have done that. It's not great, but that's the lowest you can get, and the next above that is canned beer. So if you're drinking like toilet wine, I recommend going to canned beer once you get out of prison because you'll probably find it about as pleasant to drink as toilet wine.
I don't like this conversation.
But if you want to be cool with your peers and you want to be accepted in a lot of communities, drink like a seltzer or a wine cooler. If you want to just not remember anything you do in your entire life, drink hard alcohol. There you go. The scale is easy.
Or rubbing
wine
alcohol.
Is like, I mean, you could drink rubbing alcohol, or you could drink like mouthwash. It doesn't matter really. Whatever floats your boat. But
I did that once.
But yeah,
never again.
Wine is like one of those things that like I know about, but I also don't care about. Like it does. None of it matters to me. It's all made up, and people that keep telling me it's important, I can see that provably they are full of shit. Like they just like, oh, I only drink like red wine that's been aired certain ways. Like, no, you don't, and you don't notice. And shut up. Just drink the stupid thing in front of you and be quiet about it. Like,
Whenever I see the
it's
rituals people go through at wine drinking places, I don't believe them.
Yeah.
No, airing the alcohol is actually that matters a lot. I can tell easily.
I'm just not convinced. But I also can't tell the difference between wines, so who gives a shit? Like, do you like this one more than the other one? I'm like, these are all like slightly novel flavors, but I also wine as a genre is unpleasant.
As a genre.
No, I've had such good wine in France. It was amazing.
I do not like wine.
I want to go back there for the wine alone, honestly.
I'm uncultured. I enjoy champagne.
Champagne's good.
Champagne's fine too. Champagne's a lot more versatile than wine is. You could put some orange juice in there and have a good time.
Yes, that's my favorite alcoholic drink. And one day I'll remember what it's called. A mimosa.
You don't know it's called a mimosa?
I did. I said it. I just needed a moment to remember not sangria. I had to get past the word sangria in my mind.
Oh.
It's called a mimosa.
It is very popular because it's in a song, but
it's not. The song's called Santeria. That was a joke. Somebody who corrected me 10 minutes ago feels real dumb now. Comments. Fuck you.
Nah.
So you pause in the video, comment, correct every little thing I say wrong when half of them are jokes.
Don't even leave a timestamp so other people can see.
Mimosas are a very culturally important drink. So
mimosas are good.
It's just I don't know. I'm not a big alcohol fan anyways. I drink alcohol like maybe once a year if I'm feeling saucy. But I don't get much value out of poisoning myself. Unless it's gonna be like,
except for all the
real
long-term poisons you went with.
No, look, smoking is different. Smoking isn't poisoning yourself. It's signing the will.
Dew.
Well, okay, Mountain Dew was poison, and I learned from that, right? That's why I learned not to be very heavy in drinking, because
and your
Mountain Dew
stomach
taught me
learns
really
to never
early.
work again.
Yeah, my stomach said, look, I'll be honest with you. I know the liver takes most of the alcohol, but I don't even want to think about it. Like, please don't do this to me. Like, the Mountain Dew,
Is Mountain Dew really that bad? I've never had.
Look, Mountain Dew can probably melt corpses better than acid can melt corpses.
Andrew probably hasn't told this story since the original, like, 2011 podcast or something, but, like, you have a backstory, a tragic backstory with Mountain Dew.
So, for those of you who are new here, long ago, and hello everyone, hello everybody. My name's Andrew, and I'm a recovering Mountain Dew drinker. And the way that worked was that as a child, I decided that eating was very faux pas, and drinking Mountain Dew was super in. And instead of eating, I would drink copious amounts of Mountain Dew, usually about 1 liter a day. This obviously being much. Both. Let me put preference into you that 1 can, or bottle, if you will, of Mountain Dew has enough sugar in it for like 2 days worth of human consumption. A liter of it has enough sugar in it to probably kill both the existence and the cause of diabetes. Like, I think you can just like go in a circle around it. Like, you will get diabetes and then cure yourself of diabetes because you over sugared yourself. Like, it's just a lot of sugar.
It's like preserving yourself.
Yeah, basically, it is like putting preservations in your body. But also on top of that, it is caffeinated. So not only is it the most caffeinated soda drink, it is also the most sugary soda drink. It is just literally a way for people to kill their children legally. There is no other reason for this drink to exist. And so
Wow.
I decided to drink 1 liter of this per day because I don't know.
Because why wouldn't you?
Bad decisions. Bad decisions. And so what ended up happening was that the culmination was that because I wasn't eating, it meant that the caffeine that I was ingesting, along with the amount of sugar that I was ingesting, had nowhere to go in my stomach except down. And if you don't know, your stomach is just a stomach lining, and that's it. So if it goes down, it just goes into your organ and literally starts eating you alive. So this is why often when you drink coffee and you go like, "Oh, I should have eat food with it." That's why, because your stomach was like, "Ow, someone's nibbling on me." Mountain Dew went the other direction. It was like chomping, taking chunks. And so what goes? So for example, if you were to drink like 3 cups of coffee without eating, what you would experience is it's severe stomach pain. It feels almost like you have to poop, except your body is also in pain while you're doing that. So it's like this painful "I have to poop" feeling. And that is your body eating itself alive, or I guess the caffeine eating your body alive. And so I had to go. Obviously, this happens for like a week. I go, this is a little bit much. I don't want this anymore. I need to go to the doctor. Go to the doctor, and the doctor gives me a very comical like, "Sir, you need to like stop drinking Mountain Dew forever if you want to continue living." He said the stomach lining was getting so thin that if I continued what I was doing, I would literally melt through my own stomach. And so no, generally not good. Especially this was like 20 years ago, so it's not like we had cool technology to like cyberize my stomach or something.
We still don't have that though.
You know what? We may. I don't know. I haven't had to look at stomach cyberization lately, so I don't know.
You haven't had Mountain Dew.
Yeah, exactly. I also have not had Mountain Dew since then, which has been unfortunate because in the time since I've stopped having Mountain Dew and now there have been like 17 different flavors of Mountain Dew that I've just never got to try it now. And that is very disappointing to me.
Can't you have just a little sip?
Look, okay.
Maybe it's impossible.
So let's put it this
I've
way.
never had Mountain Dew.
Let's put it this way. When you think about White Claws, right? We were just talking about White Claws. Now think about someone who's been like 30 years sober from alcoholism. Would you tell them, "Hey, why don't you just try a little sip of White Claw? I think you like it." Like I don't think it's recommended to do that. I think at some point you just have to acknowledge that you've made a terrible mistake. You can't recover from it, and this is your life now. And so that's for me with Mountain Dew. I can't do it. I have good memories. I have a picture of myself getting my driver's license, and in that picture, I'm holding a 1 liter of Mountain Dew. So, I have photographic.
Is that true?
Yeah, it is true. Actually, okay, sorry, that is a little bit of a fib. I was holding 2 liters of Mountain Dew, so I had 1 liter in each hand. But I was lucky that the place I learned to drive from was right next to a supermarket. So I would go during lunch for the learning to drive. I would go to lunch and go buy a liter of Mountain Dew there, and then I would come back and drink that during the rest of the training.
I didn't even like Mountain Dew when I was like peak sugar boy.
Look, all I can say, like, if I'm being 100%, all I can say is I am genuinely, like, fucking genuinely confused how I do not have diabetes. I don't understand it. There's like no way that I somehow managed to skirt that for so long because the amount of sugar I ingested on just.
I wonder if it's just really hard to get when you're that young, unless you're like really predisposed to it. And then now as an adult, you have so many like dietary restrictions that it's like hard for you to get diabetes.
It is, yeah. I do have like several people in my family that have diabetes, so I'm not like not predisposed. But I think it just turned out that like I had more salt than diabetes could sustain itself in. Like I think like my body was like, I can't stop producing anything because I will die. And so when it was like, oh, maybe I won't produce as much insulin, it was like, no, I can't. If I don't keep producing the insulin, I will die. So it just did it out of like sheer necessity. So I think that's what I mean is like I did the circle of life where like I think my body went through like, oh, I don't think I can do it anymore. And then it went, no, I have to or I'm gone. Like it just had to keep going. So I think that's how I survived it. But I mean, it's it's a lot. It's a lot, and it is insane that I just without any regulation was allowed to just continue doing that to myself. Like no one stopped me. No one was like,
Regulation in the US? No.
I just mean like I don't know. There's a it's impressive that we'll go like, hey, I don't think kids should buy cold medicine, but 1 liter of Mountain Dew, go for it. You want to buy 6? Go for it. Like,
because
no
a company
one's gonna
wants
stop you.
to sell that.
Don't companies want to sell cough medicine? I don't know. I'm just saying there's a lot of it's very concerning that you
Yeah,
can,
but that's just we've decided that highly profitable companies about sugar and whatnot are just supposed to just high commit. We're really selective about things. Like
It's
how
well known
yeah, I
that
can see.
Coca-Cola
like
is
with how long we
one of the
tolerated
worst companies.
vape companies making flavors that were clearly designed to target underage people.
hey, didn't we fixed that though, right? I think
Took
we
a
voted
while.
for that proposition.
Well, it's still
Yeah.
being fixed.
Well, I mean, I think California voted on a proposition to ban flavored vapes because of that. Because we also had like flavored cigarettes banned too, because obviously that was geared towards children. We're like, hey, could you not do that? And companies were like, yeah, make me. Okay, so we made them not do that anymore. And then I think we did that for vapes recently. So hopefully that's good. That's what you get. Maybe you shouldn't be smoking strawberry shortcake. Just a thought.
Have you seen? I think it's New Zealand. They banned the sale of tobacco for anybody born
after a certain age. Yeah.
No, born after 2005, I think. So basically, like the age of minimum age of smoking is going up every year until nobody's born that can still be sold tobacco. I think it is New Zealand. I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, it is New Zealand. They did that. Basically, like I think it's this generation right now is the last generation that can smoke. So like Gen Z, I think is the last smoking generation in New Zealand until like someone else takes over for leadership and changes it later. But
I mean, that's a really interesting way of dealing with a big problem of contraband that happens when prohibition.
It's weird too because like I mean I don't know, the U.S. has like slowly been declining its cigarette sales just on principle because we banned all the places that make it hospitable to do it. You can't smoke in buildings. You can't smoke like within 20 feet of a building. You can't smoke like near any health buildings or any kind of like just like most places, like even hotels are now like, hey, could you like go smoke on the parking lot? I'm like, in the parking lot? What am I, like a degenerate? I'm not smoking in the parking lot. I'm smoking in front of your business like a real sophisticated person. This is rude behavior. And so like it's like even like apartment complexes are like, no, you need to like go away from the property to smoke. So obviously that's how you can do that rather than banning it outright. You just make it so inconvenient for people to smoke that they go like, I don't want to do that anymore.
So tell me, you can smoke in your house?
If you own it, yeah, sure. Well, to a degree.
Until the woke finds you.
Yeah, basically until the woke police come and fucking beat you down.
Because I knew about public buildings.
If I remember correctly, I actually think you're not allowed to smoke in your home if you don't own your home. Like, and by own, I mean like it's paid off. Like if it's not paid off, it's still technically owned by the bank, and I think you can get in trouble if you smoke in your home that's owned by the bank. Yeah,
because I was under the impression that you couldn't smoke in or around public buildings, and I've had chats with multiple people here in Europe, here in Portugal specifically about it, and they don't believe that. They don't believe that the US works like that. And I'm just, I promise you're not allowed to. No, it just must be some buildings. But then again,
no, there are no buildings in the United States that you can smoke in. Not even bars anymore. Like bars used to be the last holdout. Was that like you could technically smoke in a bar, but then that like that basically there's a huge thing. I forget what it was like. I think it was like the 50s or 60s or something. Or no, I think it was the 60s. There was like a big push to like we need to stop smoking. It's bad for you. And so like 60s, a lot of places.
Sure.
Yeah,
maybe
I think 70s. It was like the.
I like how you said that voice like it was wrong.
It was wrong. It was like, look, I went to Japan. I was still smoking. I had the time of my life because I could smoke in everything. A train. I could smoke in a McDonald's. I could smoke in a mall. I could smoke anywhere. It was amazing.
In a McDonald's. No.
Look, I know. Look, smoking is bad for you. I'm not going to condone smoking.
It's not just for you, for the other people around you.
Well, that too. Whatever. Don't smoke. It's bad for you. But smoking is a very good social activity. It is how you meet some of the coolest people you'll ever meet. And you can also enjoy a nice, sensual breathing exercise. Just, it's nice. You don't get that anywhere else. Where else can you go and just take a 15-minute breather? Nowhere else except smoke breaks. That's why they exist. They're nice, relaxing, calm breaks in your life. But they'll also kill you. So, take it as you will. But being able to smoke indoors is a huge factor in continuing that habit and that kind of like culture. Is the more convenient it is to smoke, the absolutely more likely people will. But when you have to like smoke in the rain outside, you very quickly start going like, oh, this is fucking worth it. I don't want to do this anymore. This sucks. Like it's not great. Or be like me, you smoke in the middle of a typhoon and you go like, look, I kind of like smoking, but I also kind of think I might need to question my choices a little bit more. It's kind of windy out here. I'm not really getting as much of a like relaxing vibe as I was hoping for, but at least the nicotine hit's done. And at the end of the day, is that really what I want? Do I just want to serve a weird addiction, or do I want the enjoyment of breathing in, breathing out, and feeling my lungs get heavier each time? Because that's what I really want. And you can do that. Just don't breathe in cigarette smoke, I guess.
Yeah, if I get into a bar or a coffee shop or something and I smell smoke, I don't go in. Basically, it's very rare that here in Portugal there people are still allowed to smoke. Yeah, well, and it's been 2 or 3 years now since I've gone into a bar like that, but still, yeah, it's just yeah. It's not that I can't sustain the smell; is that I don't want to sustain the smell. And
you
the
don't
smoke.
want to sustain the smell. You don't like.
I just don't want to. It's just like no, I'm not. No, like I can. I don't. I'm not gonna throw up. It's fine, whatever. But I don't want to. Bye. So yeah.
There is a part of me that feels a little like I'll get this tinge of annoyance when I smell it, not because I don't like the smell, but because I'm like, that could be me. That could be me doing that right now. I'm like annoyed by it. Like, how dare you? I'm right here, and I want to smoke so bad. Please don't do that. But it is. I don't know. I think like I think the decline both ways works fine. You can just be like super hard. What's it called? I just forgot the word. No, the prohibition. You could be like super prohibition about it and like ban it and be like, no, none for you. Stop. Or you can just be really inconvenient about it. And eventually people will just be like, I'm lazy. I'm not going to go through the effort. I'd just rather not smoke. And either way is perfectly fine.
Prohibition has the problem of not actually achieving the goal of controlling it doesn't increase the control. It just, in many respects, it decreases the control that the government has over the consumption of whatever is being prohibited. And it's the same thing with drugs, and it's the same thing with alcohol and whatever. So I think that sort of gradual prohibition is interesting. I had never heard of anything work like that, but I think it makes a lot of sense because on the one hand, it's just sort of cutting the habit forming from the new generations, but at the same time, it's not like every shop or every seller that still relies on selling tobacco is just okay. They're still gonna keep selling. They're just gonna see their clients die.
Okay, so I wanted to verify my claim here. So about the smoking indoors you can't do. So it depends if you get it depends on the contract you do for your mortgage. It is legal for a mortgage company to say you're not allowed to smoke in a building until you have full ownership of it. And also it is what is it? In California, it looks like it is illegal for multi homes like apartments or duplexes, stuff like that. You cannot smoke indoors in them because the ventilation can potentially cause risk for other people in the building. So apparently that's the law. So it's a mixture of both. Contractually, there are times you cannot smoke inside of your home, but also in certain types of domiciles, you just cannot straight up smoke in them. But yeah, you definitely, if you do own your home, because I dated someone who did own their home, or whose parents own their home, and they smoked inside of the home. if you ever want to wake up with asthma, that's what waking up with asthma is like. Go stay the night in a place where people are smoking in the home. It's all fun and games until you go to sleep and wake up and you're like, oh my god, what is that fucking thing in my throat? Like, it's
all of the
awful.
shitty wake up feelings amplified.
Yeah. But it was so fun to sit and just lay in bed and smoke a cigarette, and you're like, oh, this is nice. You just have a cigarette underneath your chin.
No consequences.
Like,
oh fuck, I fucked up. I fucked around and found
exactly.
out.
Exactly. It was just like, and I didn't even think to open a window or anything. I was just sitting there smoking, not even thinking about it, just like having a good time. And then I just went to bed. I just like put the cigarette out, put the ashtray down, rolled over, went to bed,
laid in it.
Yeah, I woke up and I thought to myself as I went to bed,
wallowed
I was like,
in your lung filth.
Yeah, and I thought I was gonna wake up tomorrow and I was gonna have a cigarette first thing, and I'm gonna wake up, roll out of bed, and just have a cigarette right there. And I did, and I woke up and I rolled over and I went. I was like, uh-oh. Yeah. Maybe we shouldn't be allowed to smoke inside buildings. This is a good idea. It was a fun time, but you learn. Like I did when I went to Dubai, I was still smoking, and I stayed at a place that let you smoke inside, and I learned from it. And I opened the window, and I properly smoked with the window open and smoked outside. And then before I went to bed, I made sure I turned the fan on so it was ventilating the room so that way I wouldn't wake up in my own death. And that was a lot better.
I would like to survive tonight.
Also, make sure and empty your ashtrays out before you go to bed, because it does get really strong of a smell. When you're sleeping, you're trying to sleep, and you can smell like the cigarette butts, and you're like, ooh, and especially if you're smoking like a real person, which is like half a pack a day, then you have a lot of cigarette butts in there, and it starts getting real nasty. But good luck. You're not going to find like almost any places that you can smoke inside in. Even the hotels that you can still smoke inside in the US are like so far and few in between, and also are just very poorly kept up. They do not clean those rooms very well at all, because what are you going to do? Smell it? You can't. You smoke cigarettes, dumpy. Like it's it is
you've self-selected yourself out of pleasant life experiences.
Exactly. Hey, look, I'm happy. I still can't smell to this day. I have made only smart choices, but apparently this choice I have made is not a choice that works well with other people, because then they can't smell bad, or they can smell bad things and I can't. So I just get to go through life like I don't smell anything bad, and someone else is like, I'm dying, this smells awful, and I'm like, that sounds like a you problem.
You say that half a pack a day is smoking like a real adult.
Yeah. I mean, you could smoke more than half a pack. That's also fine. But like, if you smoke less than half a pack, I don't really think you're smoking. I think you're just like pretending. I think you're pretending to smoke.
You're just going through
you're just a hobbyist smoker. I'm a career smoker.
Exactly. There's a difference between doing it socially, which is just like you're doing it for the cred, and when you're doing it because you actually genuinely love to smoke.
You're just smoking because you saw Kiryu look cool on an Xbox game cover once.
Yes, exactly.
In 1963.
Yeah. You're watching like a James Bond movie, and you're like, oh,
I don't think Kiryu was alive in the 60s.
Well, I mean, what I'm saying is, tobacco, or actually, it was the 70s. Right? You were saying the 60s there was a push to stop smoking, but I think it was the 70s. Because when was that Lucky Luke kind of person, like, who had a cigarette on all the time, and then all of a sudden he started having a little straw, little plant. Do you know the one? Is it Lucky Luke? It is Lucky Luke, right?
Lucky Luke.
I think
don't know what that means.
I don't know what Lucky Luke is. Is that a cowboy?
Yeah, it's a cowboy.
Oh, yeah. I think that change happened when the Marlboro Man got sick. Because so turns out, boys and girls, if you become the sponsor of a cigarette company and thus need to smoke cigarettes in the advertisements all the time, and thus live in the United States, a heavy advertisement country, you'll smoke a lot of cigarettes. And it turned out that didn't go well for the Marlboro Man, who ended up having terrible lung cancer and throat cancer. And Ooh, boy. Yeah, that didn't look very good for cowboys, right? The cowboy mentality kind of went out the window when you just saw this guy who was like a shriveled,
It's okay.
dying old
Cowboys
man,
aren't
just like,
real.
what are you talking about? How are cowboys not
What do you
real?
mean?
What is the entire South of the United States if
No, I'm
not
saying,
cowboys?
like, it's just like
Are
the
you-
entire like aesthetic history of cowboys is fiction. And the
Oh,
Marlboro
like
Brand's not based on real people. It's based on like movie cowboys, and movie cowboys were always a lie. They never reflected reality. First of all, they were all white, so that's a bad starting point for historical reality.
I don't know. Wikipedia is saying Marlboro television and print ads used several real cowboys. How do you contest that, Keith? They use real cowboys.
That doesn't mean they're not dressed up to be movie man. Like the fan.
The thing
like,
is, you say they're not real. There's no real cowboys.
People
They
fantasize
use them.
about historical cowboys the same way we that racists fantasize about like Romans and just make up fake Romans.
I love the idea that like Marlboro went through time and like grabbed cowboys and like brought them to the future so they could advertise cigarettes with them. Just like, we got real cowboys from the Wild West. It's like a bunch of really confused guys on horses. Like, what the fuck? What is going on in here? What are all these lights and what are these boxes? It's like, here, hold this in your mouth. It's like, what? Why has it got a brown thing at the end of it? Is that okay? Can I smoke
They knew
that?
what smoking was.
No, they rolled their own cigarettes. Cigarettes today have filters on them. They didn't have filters back then. They had
They
shitty
didn't
rolled
have
up
asphalt
tobaccos.
in their. They didn't have asphalt in their just cigarettes either.
That's true. Their cigarettes were probably not healthy, but were less
They were
carcinogenic
leaps
than
and bounds, yeah.
cigarettes of today. Yeah. I hate that. I hate that like you can't. It's hard to talk about like, oh yeah, cigarettes had like a decrease where you can't say cigarettes were healthier back then because that was never true. You just have to say like cigarettes just got worse for you. Like, okay. But there's
like
never like a good time
every
for
industry
cigarettes.
ever there was always like subcategories of cigarettes that are like pretending to be healthier. It's like they're diet cigarettes.
Wait, there were diet cigarettes?
Yeah.
Isn't that what menthols were or something?
Oh my god, really? Oh my.
Yeah,
That's wild.
cigarettes were so that's like that was the trick to trick women into smoking cigarettes.
They would
is that
have cigarettes.
It like was good for your figure.
Advertised to women.
Yeah, because cigarettes were good for your figure, right? Because it wouldn't make you eat as much, and if you didn't eat as much, then you would be thin, you big ugly fatty. So how about you smoke a pack a day, and maybe you can lose some of that whatever you want to call that extra body weight. Gross, cringe. Not in my housewife.
Is it actually true? Is it actually true that cigarettes make you?
Not in my housewife.
Look, the U.S. was a pretty fun time if you were like a completely
Listen, I'm
shitty
the man of this
human male.
housewife, and
Sounds like a sitcom. A man of the housewife, like
a really sexist sitcom. So a sitcom, but
yeah, so a sitcom.
Women, am I right?
Oh God, yeah, women.
Entire genre of
I
comedy
love-
that's like, we hate being straight.
It's not even that. It's
just
worse than
like,
that.
It's
It's
just straight
it's
people
like we-
complaining about being straight all the time. Like, that's an entire genre of comedy, and it's so fucking weird to watch from the outside when you're gay. You're like, I don't know. I think men are great. What's the problem? Why do straight people hate straight people so much?
It's also weird because there's a lot of sitcoms that are about hating marriage, and you're like, you chose that, you know that, right? Like, this is the thing that you have control over. Like, no one just made you get married. Why would you marry someone you hate? And it's always like these weird. I understand the angle of like, well, I wish I could have sex with other people. Fine, okay, whatever.
Have a
but like,
cooler
the parts
relationship, loser.
Yeah, whatever. I'm sure polyamory wasn't a big deal back in the 50s or whatever. But the idea that you're like, I just hate my wife is like, what the fuck? Why did you do that? Like, you live with this person forever. You know that was like the rule, right? That was the whole point of the marriage thing, is that you're like together now. Like, why did you do that with someone you hate? Just like don't do that. Are you so incompetent you couldn't like survive without a woman taking care of you? What is the like goal here that you went through?
It's just the mess of stuff I tried to dig into in some of the videos where it's like, hey, guess what? Heteronormativity is bad for everyone, including the heteronormatives.
This is why. This is
like
why
you've
Alf
made a
was
system
the
that
best
hurts you
sitcom.
too. It just hurts people who don't submit to it more.
Yeah. And I mean, it's weird because it never got better either. Like you watch stuff like How I Met Your Mother is the same way. It's about like, man, relationships, am I right? And you're like, well, why do you keep having them then? You don't have to do this to yourself. You there is like an option to not. Like, you don't have to go on this weird like relationship spree. It almost seems like the main character has like an addiction to being in a relationship. He can't just help it. He has to be in one all the time. And it's just like, what? It's fine, dude. Just hang out.
On one hand, it's just
life.
genre conventions of like the fiction requires them to constantly like just do a thing again in the next piece of the story forever. But there's also like an element of like, yeah, like I've known people that were like that, like people that would just like go from relationship to relationship, complain about all of them while they were in them. All of them ended with an element of like, bitch just went crazy one day, and like by the end it's like, I don't know, like why are you endlessly chasing this thing that makes you miserable all the time? Like it made me always wonder, like, I don't know, like do you actually understand what you want from relationships to begin with? Do you even like women? Because you don't seem to like any of the women, as it turns out. And it's just like this endless, straight people fascinate me. They're so confusing to me.
Yeah,
I've never figured it out.
It's a self-perpetuate. The thing is, it's the societal pressure to have a dream relationship that doesn't exist. And this is the same society that pressures that is the same society that stigmatizes all the real normal things that people go through, and then they just get bitter. Like if somebody doesn't submit to you 100%, oh, it's crazy. It's just hysterical. It's what it is, and it's just.
The people that think that like women exist to like sex is a power transaction and not like a thing people do for fun as a like bonding goal.
Yeah, I can't
it's so
tell
weird
you.
To me.
Excuse me, sir.
Excuse me, sir.
What are you doing?
What
are you doing right now? What are you doing? What
are you coming after me for launching Overwatch?
Yeah, what are you doing right now? I just saw that. I saw that pop-up come up. I said, excuse me, what is Keith doing in Overwatch?
No, so I've been managing my uploads over the course of this podcast. Like I just like title that, put that in the playlist, all that shit. And then so I need to make an Overwatch thumbnail. And so I have a separate picture of every single character for Overwatch thumbnails for whoever I play the most or whatever, like unique character I played that episode or whatever, for variety's sake. And I don't have a thumbnail for Torbjorn yet. So I'm so when you see me launch Overwatch before like 7 o'clock in the evening, it's usually that I'm launching into the hero gallery to then cycle through the highlight intros of the character with Alt, and I press Alt Z to hide the interface, and I screenshot moments of the highlight to use as thumbnails. Because it shows them in the training level doing the highlight reel poses, and then I use those as thumbnails because they're close-ups of the character emoting. So I'm currently trying to take a picture of Torbjorn. I'm not playing Overwatch. I cannot multitask playing that game and podcasting.
I'll never not find it funny that like most games are very invasive of your friend's privacy, where they're like, the moment your friend loads any game, it's like, did you know that Jeffrey is playing Destiny 2? And you're like, oh, Jeffrey, what are you doing?
Something made funnier by the fact that now Steam is full of porn games.
Oh,
it's like, would you like to tell your entire friends list that you launched this porn game and how long you've played it so far?
And it could also say a lot about you too. Where you're like, if you're going after the Hitler dating game, you go like, oh, I don't know. I think we're gonna have to like reassess our friendship here. This is gonna be a rough one. I'm sorry, but like it's.
Fortunately, it's very easy to reassess. Right click, remove friend.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Is like you gotta have a talk now. You could be like, sorry, but I gotta remove you because I saw that you launched the Hitler dating game, and you didn't just launch it quickly. I saw you were still playing that like 2 hours later, so you got committed to that game.
It wasn't just for the smut.
It wasn't just. Is there smut? I don't even know what that game. I don't even know
it's
real. I'm just making up stuff. Is there smut in the Hitler dating game? Is that even a real thing?
Is it a real game?
Sure, it is. I can't imagine racist people don't do that, but.
Oh, you're making up a Hitler dating. Okay, I was like,
I'm making it up. I hope so, God.
When I hear of a Hitler dating simulator, I imagine that there's somehow anime girls.
Yeah, probably.
Like an anime Hitler girl.
It would just be like this like fucking hot like Hatoful boyfriend style abstraction where like it's like you can date Hitler and Mussolini and everyone, but they're all anime girls.
I was thinking you were talking about like Hatsune Miku with like a Hitler mustache.
I mean, yes, kind of.
I was like, what the fuck? That sounds awful.
Hitler would probably look like what's her name from Attack on Titan? Tsukasa, I think her name is.
Oh, I don't know.
The main girl in Attack on Titan, but with like a little mustache. Like she'd have like a bowl-ish haircut or something. Like I can imagine
probably
this.
Would look like that. Oh my god, that's pretty funny. I didn't even think about that. That's great.
I don't know.
This opens up a whole new. Is it morally irrehensible or I cannot think of the word.
Reprehensible.
Is it morally reprehensible? And I think I was combining both of those. Yeah, I think is it morally reprehensible and irredeemable to exploit that idea for profit? Like, could I make that?
It's definitely reprehensible to monetize people that would date Hitler.
Mm-hmm. I was hoping I could think of it as like stealing from racist people, but I guess not.
Turns out that's profiting from bigots is just what the entire right-wing media sphere does.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Like when you look at people like it's weird. It's a mix. Like when it comes to like Alex Jones and the Quartering and Tim Pool and other people like that. Like they're it's a weird combination of like some genuinely held beliefs, but a huge pile of just bizarre like role play pandering. Like they're just repeating buzzwords and bullshit that has worked so far, and just kind of like Emperor's New Clothing through the whole thing and hoping no one notices they're completely incoherent and also don't believe most of what they're saying half the time. There's a really good
grift a lot of the time, but
I mean, they're not good people. They're not secretly leftists that are just so like that are just like so corrupted by making money that they're just pretending that far off of base. But like there was a very illuminating debate between the Quartering and Big Joel years ago that mysteriously the Quartering didn't upload afterwards. Interesting.
Oh, I've heard Big Joel talk about
it's a rough watch, but at least at the time some random person had recorded and uploaded it because it was a live stream, but then it was like squashed afterwards and no one and Quartering didn't keep the video. But he just blatantly is like, over the course of the debate, he's just revealing very clearly that he doesn't actually believe in the stuff that he talks about. Like he's like he's really shamelessly just signal boosting right-wing outrage just mindlessly, just whatever the fuck people are talking about basically. And he has no actual like stance or any kind of coherent
you're just
ideology.
You're just appealing to the lowest common denominator.
Yeah, like he just shits out a 8-minute vlog 7 times a day about every single thing someone on the right was mad about on Twitter, basically to just piggyback views off of things people are already yelling about. Like he literally contributes nothing even within his own sphere. Like that's how much of just a waste of a person he is.
Of a person.
I mean, there's no doubt about that, but the amplification of the narrative is still, it changes the landscape. It's not just that he doesn't say anything new, it's just that him saying the same thing is a problem for sure, and reaching more people.
He is regurgitating bad opinions and directing them towards people so that they, in theory, would also maintain and feel validated with those bad opinions.
He's every YouTuber that just lazily scrolls through Reddit and reacts to it like that's content, except it's all bigotry.
Wow, are you going to call out Hassan like that?
I don't watch Hassan, so I don't really know what he does.
Yeah, it's.
I just know I just know he makes an ungodly amount of money, and I only hear his bad takes because I don't watch his content.
It's. I mean, it's just I don't like that kind of content where it is just scrolling through Twitter. Or Reddit
it's just
and, like,
just hangout content for people, like for an entire audience that just
Yeah.
has nothing else to do, I guess, and also hasn't
Yeah, I
found
think it
better
is.
content, because there is infinite well-crafted content. You can literally just passively consume well-made stuff all day instead of just a guy hanging out and like making thousands of dollars not really doing anything. Like he's just
I wish people would spend more time watching art. Just watch art, man. It's so much better for you. Like you'll have a lot more fun. You can chill. It's just as comfy.
Yeah, bring
it's
back
just as
Picardo. I've been watching Picardo streams lately because Rat streams their art on that. That's the clown I drew.
Yeah, like art streams are nice. Political streams aren't. There's a reason that we like don't do debates every day, is because they're boring and uninteresting, and we want to like enjoy living. And that's not what that content is. It's not enjoying living. It's you just like needing to be upset, and you're looking for reasons to be upset. Don't do that. Just stop. Like the Michael Jordan thing. Just stop. Go.
Michael Jordan thing?
Michael Jordan thing.
There's the commercial where he is
where he says stop.
He says like stop that.
Oh, stop it. Get help.
Yeah.
I thought it was meant we're all mad at Michael Jordan for some reason. I'm like, I missed a news cycle.
He can be. He wasn't like the best person in the world, but regardless,
he just doesn't feel like he is coming up actively anymore.
He's not part of the current.
Unless someone decided to reopen
thankfully.
Michael Jordan discourse or something.
Someone's just going through like a filing cabinet, like, I'm out of ideas of people to hate. Michael Jordan.
I've opened up the Jordan files.
Can I get like a what is it
Actually,
called?
all of those shoes
X-Files.
were made in.
Oh my god! Can I get like an X-Files?
You can do this. You can sincerely
Twitter
do
drama?
this. It's easy.
Yeah, you can, but would you need to? No.
Well, if it gave you money on YouTube or whatever.
I was gonna say, there's people who make a profit specifically from just kind of finding things to. You gotta dig up a thing to react to, and you can't. There's a benefit from all discussing the same thing as everyone else, but there's also a thing to benefit from just like bringing up new things for everyone to get mad about. It's like there's I think about like the Shane Dawson stuff a little bit. Like obviously Shane Dawson needed to be re-examined because it was fucking bizarre how everyone just like just ignored his behavior for like 15 years.
Yeah, I was gonna say like I think it was
every
like, I
minute
think it
of him
just...
being on YouTube was horrific, and people bizarrely didn't notice ever for so long.
It was just
okay. Obviously, like obviously
in their minds,
like obviously
okay.
there was people. There was a lot of marginalized voices being completely ignored that are like, hey, this guy's doing blackface in 2008. What the fuck? Like this is just a thing that's happening periodically. But it was wild, like, but at the same time, like, yeah, like there was very much like someone essentially, like people essentially just like, there was just a moment where it's like, this is a thing I can talk about for my platform for clout or for attention or etc. Like there was like a clear benefit to making content about Shane Dawson. Like that was started by that being a thing that they could do to just drive views and subscriptions and Patreon funds and so on. Like it's like, here's a target I can go after.
Wasn't it like replies? And remember, what was that? That was like a big thing where people would make reply videos to videos. Like they would
video replies. Yeah, they used to almost be entirely. Wasn't there like a whole thing about like reply girls or something that were a lot?
Yeah. There used to be like reply girls, and like there used to be like literal like 4-hour essays that were longer replies than the videos that were like 20 minutes or something. Like there used to be these huge content farms for like replying to other YouTube videos, especially popular ones, because I think what you would do is just like RE : and then the name of the video. So then when you search for the name of the video or whatever, your reply would come up there too.
You're talking about a later thing. I thought you meant.
Were you talking about the?
I thought you meant the
talking about
YouTube
the actual
feature that had reply. You could do reply videos, and
Yeah.
they'd show up under the video. And there was
Yes, I do remember
this was
those
like
as well.
There was
Yeah,
a
we
real
did one.
mechanic because people would intentionally be like, yeah, like do a reply video to this and so on. It was like a whole little subculture of YouTube that's just like
Yes,
that's long
I do
gone,
remember that.
like the 5-star scale or the ability to customize your YouTube page like it's a MySpace page with like a background and everything.
Or let's not forget the best one, shows. The only fucking feature that really was the most useful thing ever made.
Yeah, you could design a multi-season show and like instead of just play like it was like playlists a bit, but like you could like brand something as being like season 2 episode 4 of this show, and then like people could click, it would show up next to the title and people would click on that to navigate the episodes of the thing. Like we had Unfairnament set up that way because it had multiple seasons and episodes per season, so it was a good way to explain it. That didn't need to have seasons as much because it was just a bunch of videos we made in batches.
But it was nice that you could like separate it. You can have a separate area for the Xbox Live indie games over here. They're separate from the Let's Play playlists. Like it was really nice to be able to do that, and it also helped a lot with the MCMs. When you had like Machinima or whatever, because Machinima like uploaded a million different types of shows, or Rooster Teeth. Rooster Teeth was super useful for it because like I just want to watch Red vs. Blue. I'll subscribe to the Red vs. Blue show inside of Rooster Teeth. So I'm subscribed to Rooster Teeth, but I can also just subscribe to the Red vs. Blue show. So that way I don't get updates from all their shitty other stuff.
But what you were talking about is response videos.
Yes, response videos. Sorry,
which especially
both
is like
response videos and replies
that
were both just like insane to me. Like that was a thing. Like
it's one of the ways that a lot of actually like a lot of the leftist YouTubers kind of got their start was by responding to various right-wing shit because the right-wing stuff was way more established way sooner. And so like the early days of like H-Bomber Guy and a bunch of other channels are all like taking down this shit bag, like people who I don't even want to like signal boost their names of lest they ever come back, because a lot of these people are like a lot of these channels are kind of vanquished. You never hear about them again. But there was like
they were really shit to begin with. The only the only reason they were around was because of the cloud. If the cloud goes away, they are like there's nothing. We're down to like
the somewhat more, some of them are more dog whistly and that's how they get away with some of it, and some of them are just so astonishingly popular that they're just not going to be crushed by anything besides being deplatformed essentially. Like you can't response video them out of existence or anything. But there was definitely just there was definitely like a whole string of basically just like Nazi YouTubers, like just horrifically explicitly horrible people, and it was very straightforward to dismantle the nightmare shit they were doing. And some of them are just straight up gone because like any attention on them that would quickly recategorize, like you're like, what the fuck, like why is this on this platform, why are we putting up with this? Like those things were helpful in some context for de-radicalizing some people that like just don't have the critical thinking to process these ideas unless somebody else points out how bullshit they are, because otherwise they just mindlessly consume a bunch of weird like manosphere bullshit. But pretty much everybody moved on from that, like especially since like as a rule people tended to do response videos to people that were larger than them, and then a lot of those channels now are established, so they're larger than the people that they would have been responding to anyway, and so it just kind of doesn't happen that way anymore.
I mean, the smaller channels still do. There's a lot of small channels doing those response videos. It's just that they don't gain traction in the same way because the market, as it were, is saturated.
It's mostly just the occasional thing of just people just dealing with the fact that like, fuck, PragerU still exists, huh? Like this just keeps happening. That's like 80% of response videos at this point.
Well, they have millions in backing from big millionaires, basically, just hyping up their hate. So it's just like, if there's
it's just
a
propaganda machine. They make little animated lies that just make things up, and then they spend countless just insane amounts of money forcefully advertising it across YouTube to signal boost it, because they don't actually need to make a profit as a YouTube channel. It's just backed up by people that already have enough money to just dump it into trying to push public consciousness towards their like horrible ideologies. Judeo-Christian values.
It is as God intended. It's funny to see when you've been somewhere for so long, right? Like YouTube, you've been on there for so long, you can see all of these like hills and valleys that go around, and you can see all these like the things that get popular and then fall off, and you think of like there's just I feel like a lot, especially with the replies and stuff, a lot of those did also help push smaller channels into the limelight at times. Like there were a lot of little no-name channels that did spawn out of doing stuff like replying to big videos all the time. And it is weird the way that through all of that, there always seemed to have been it's always been a very consistency of the wrong type of people gaining popularity from using those features, where you're like, oh no, I definitely didn't want these people to get more attention. And it's just
there's one of the reasons why you don't want to do a reply video to a shitty horrible channel that's smaller than you, is that you then give them more attention by showing them on your larger channel.
Yeah, and I think about stuff like where, like on Twitter, people say like, don't retweet anything that's bad, just like take a picture of it.
That's why it feels like a mistake whenever a small channel, it feels like a huge mistake whenever like a daytime talk show that's left leaning acknowledges some kind of nightmarish reactionary like YouTube channel or something. It's like, you're only telling more people about them via your big TV show. Like, why would you do this? Stop.
Yep.
I'm begging you to stop.
I mean, they should have learned that. Well, television in particular should have learned that since GTA. Them trying to stop GTA. Hey, in this game, you can kill all the cops and people and gamers all around. What? We can? Let's do this. I mean, they didn't complain about that so much, which is weird. They complained about the. What did they complain about GTA? I didn't get exposed too much about.
There was the murdering prostitutes mechanic.
Oh, the prostitutes. That's the one. Yes.
But not only that, you get your money back too, which is
because what happened? There was a mechanic where you could pick up prostitutes and park in an alleyway, and then the vehicle would rock, and you would restore health even beyond your maximum health, I think, and then and then they'd get out. And then you go out and you can hop out and kill them and then loot your money back from them, because emergent gameplay. It's like an immersive sim. Woo. But there's reasons why this isn't entirely ideal.
Well, yeah. But what I mean to say is that it's the same process of television being like, hey, this game is really bad, and then just propping it up into the most profitable franchise of any franchise, of anything, including movies.
Yeah, I don't know if GTA was specifically like made its income off of being I guess on some level it might have been from the controversy or whatever, but it's just like I mean,
yeah, it's not.
It was also like an interesting new series of like systems that you could play around with.
No, because
like Postal and stuff existed, but never took off like that, because Postal was also not interesting, and it wasn't very cathartic to play. Exactly. It was just kind of mean spirited and boring.
Yeah. No, I'm not accusing GTA of. Well, actually, in some ways, maybe they did sort of tailor themselves into the limelight that they were being shown. I mean, I don't really see that in Vice City specifically, but kind of maybe San Andreas a little. But it's not a franchise that really necessarily, tailored itself to the
I just remember that I remember I used to subscribe to Game Informer, and because like if you go to if you bought anything at GameStop, basically they would try to push a $10 subscription on Game Informer, basically, and here you go, here's a bunch of fucking Game Informers, And like for over a year straight, because they had a page that took care of that tracked the top 10 selling games of the year, or might have been top 20 or whatever of the month, and they do a little blurb about like the top 10 in particular, and GTA 3 was the first place game for over a year straight. And so he, like, clearly the person was just getting more frustrated and bored. Like they were just increasingly dismissive of the fact that that this game was just infinitely the first place game. It was just very entertaining just watching somebody just like reduce in professionalism and just lose interest in even writing this section anymore over the course of a year.
Why do they even make me do this?
Yeah, I was like, wow, GTA is here again. You know what it is because you already own it, or so I would think. But you guys somehow you're buying more of it too. So I don't understand.
GTA 3 is interesting because it was as a game. It's basically on the same level of Super Mario 64, for example, in terms of like groundbreaking technology and level design and even storytelling to some regard, because it manages to reach so many people, but it has aged so poorly because the adventure genre just came leaps and bounds, honestly, and just sort of in the merge with RPGs, it just left GTA 3 behind. But at the time, like it was like a world encompassing thing. Everybody knew GTA 3. Everybody wanted to play GTA 3. People without consoles or PCs.
I think the original GTA was genuinely innovative and interesting for the time. Like it was just doing enough stuff well enough that you couldn't really get anywhere else in games. But now, nowadays, Grand Theft Auto is just Madden or Call of Duty, or FIFA for you Europeans, where it's just a property that is so massively established in the public consciousness that it doesn't actually have to do anything to earn money. They just have to make a new game and then monetize the fuck out of that game, because literally, like, people, it's like, because there's an entire category of people that just they engage with games so casually, and I don't mean this in like in a gatekeeping kind of way, but just like they have such a casual understanding and awareness of video games that they literally don't hear about other ones. Like they just like, oh, the new Madden's out, oh, the new Call of Duty's out, oh, Fortnite is this thing you hear about inescapably all the time, and like, oh, the new GTA. Like that's beyond those types of games that they literally don't know they exist. It's one, and it's frustrating because one of the reasons why so much of gaming is worse is indirectly because of these people. 100%. And it's not their fault, but
no, it's the company's fault.
Companies keep trying to chase these people and hope that like Dead Space 3 will be like the next massive property that all the normies care about. It's like, instead of making games that the actual audience wants to play. And that's one of the frustrating trends in all of this, because like everybody wants more, so they want to break into this bizarre thing that you can't do on purpose. Like Minecraft didn't do it on purpose. Minecraft just, whoops, billionaire. Oopsie doodle. I just made some funny squares.
And that's the reason why we have fewer and fewer games by bigger companies, is because they're precisely tailoring the whole business towards chasing the world encompassing new GTA, or I suppose new Destiny or whatever.
It sucks. And like every single thing takes an eternity to make, and there's such an endless chase of production values that like we've just given up on the era that of once upon a time when we had neat games like Dino Crisis. Like back in the PS1 and 2 era, like companies made a game every year or faster sometimes, and they're like some of the most legendary games you've heard of were made in like 9 months. You're like, what the fuck? And nowadays people spend, like, think about how long it took to make a sequel to God of War that's just the same game, or a sequel to Horizon Zero Dawn that's just the same game. Oh, but now there's a swimming section. Okay.
Swimming section? Bro.
There's some like underwater swim.
60,
I saw
what are you talking about? $70 and you don't get the full game.
I saw some underwater swimming in Horizon's Forbidden West. That's what it's called.
I'll watch
it. Wow, new mechanic. That's worth coming back to this identical video game. Like, I know there's a new story in these sequels, but I'm incredibly underwhelmed by the idea of playing any of these like cinematic sequels to massive AAA games. I'm like, I already played the first one. When I played the first Tomb Raider reboot, I'm like, that was fun. This franchise is dead to me. There's nothing this franchise could do that make me care about its sequels. Like, because they're just gonna be, hey, remember the Tomb Raider reboot? It's like that, but for 60 more hours over the course of 3 games. I'm like, I already. Like in all of these cases, the first game was already longer than it needed to be, so I don't need like them to all be trilogies of the same gameplay but slightly different narrative context. It's like,
but the thing is, like, I think in particular with the Tomb Raider series, that happens because they strayed away from their puzzle origins. Because if it's puzzle, like, I'm a huge fan of the original 3 Tomb Raiders.
They go heavy away from any of the puzzle solving stuff, and it's always it's cover shooting and like scraping the entire environment for resources so that you can then craft them into stuff later
or whatever.
And it's never as good as The Last of Us. Partly because it's
The Last of Us.
Partly because it often leans into the Far Cry approach of like, if you get all these random rare resources, you can craft an upgrade to your belt and stuff. And it's like, the worst thing you can do with these systems is be Skyward Sword. Where in Skyward Sword, like I've done this rant in other playthroughs recently and these videos aren't out yet. But like, both videos that are both out and not out, I'm sure, but it just comes up periodically. But like, Zelda, I see as a nice pure system where the biggest reward is getting a new gadget or tool, and like, whoa, look at this thing, it's the blowy machine, it goes blow. And then the next thing you can do is gather one of like the 32 heart pieces or whatever, because like that's like such a concrete progress of like, oh, my health bar go big. And you're like, and they're all unique. Like, oh, that one's from a boss fight. That one's from a really specific puzzle or a secret or something. And so it encourages exploration. And the reward is immediate. You're like, oh fuck, a heart piece. The reward's slightly less immediate because you need to get like 4 of them, but like it's immediate progress. Like, heart piece, I know what this means, and I feel good now for reasons I understand. In Skyward Sword, you're like, I got iron, I got a beetle, I got a tumbleweed. I got it. It's fucking Fallout 4 where you're like, I got glue. I guess this is adhesive. I can use adhesive. I could probably use adhesive for something, right? Like that abstraction removes the entire concept of reward, but it encourages you to mindlessly scrape every piece of the environment for random shit constantly and forever, hoping it matters. And it just makes you waste more time in all of your games, but not getting the satisfaction of actually knowing why you're getting stuff or ever finding something really cool and knowing that it's cool in the moment. And it sucks. And so like most games that have crafting, you just scrape the environment for random bullshit. And you're like, do I even want this? I don't even know. You're like, fuck, who cares? I'll just grab it. Like, I guess I'll just kill. There's like 7 bulls in this field. I'll kill all 7 of these bulls and skin them because like, when I get back to town, maybe it'll help me craft like a holster for some reason. Like, I don't even know, but maybe it will. Like that's Far Cry. That's Far Cry. That's Fallout 4. That's Skyward Sword is just, it's like, it's the worst concept. It's horrible. Don't just grab a bunch of random bullshit because you can and just be mindlessly engaging. Whereas like in The Last of Us, you can only craft like 4 things. And you very quickly become very aware of what each thing's made of, because each thing's made of only 2 things, and those 2 things are shared between the other things. So and you can only carry X amount of them. So you're constantly like it makes you do you do resource management and risk assessment, and like there's a risk reward back and forth between very specific concepts. Like, oh fuck, they made it so that alcohol can be used to craft a Molotov cocktail, or the only healing item. That is a bit of a fucking thing to have to weigh against each other. And they made it so that the sharp objects or whatever, I don't remember if it was a glass or a screwdriver or whatever the fuck, can be used to craft a shiv, which can one-shot a clicker, or it can craft a lockpick. Or actually, I think is that you craft shivs, but the shivs can be used to either fight clickers or to open doors as a lockpick, and and they're single use in both cases. And so that's like those are interesting choices. You should always be engaging in interesting choices, and the fucking stuff you find, you should know why you want it and be excited about it. So the moment you turn things into a billion separate collectibles and Skyward Sword, it's like, you got a blade of grass. Let's slowly open the inventory, and Fee's going to explain to you, wow, you got a blade of grass. It goes here on the giant grid of 75 items you have. when you visit a character 7 hours from now, maybe you'll be happy you got it. Or maybe it'll never come up. Maybe it'll never come up. Maybe you'll never use those diamonds. Fuck you.
Oh, he never came up. I hadn't heard this version of the rant yet.
There's a lot of versions of this rant.
Yeah,
I hate Yakuza drives me fucking crazy. I hate how Yakuza puts 50 items in your inventory and half of them are gambling cheats, which whatever. I just throw this in my thing and just accept that I don't gamble, but whatever. But then it's like a piece of aluminum, an iron rod. I'm like, okay. These are all like weird weapon crafting items, and like, but then even though the fact I've been playing this game so long, I've almost beaten it, and I've done every side story and a bunch of the weird side activities. I go to the fucking Cameo Works guy, and he's like, "All right, so here's the list of weapons you can craft, and here's the list of upgrades you can craft." I can't do a single one in the entire store. And I'm like, what have I been gathering stuff for? Like, how do I even find those? Where would I even go to get like a tennis racket? Like, it's always like noise. Where I'm like, oh, it's mysterious wood. I'm like, what's mysterious wood? This game takes place in the city. I play tennis sometimes. Like,
isn't a lot of it just like, it's like from the bottom up kind of crafting? Like you need to craft something using that shit at the bottom.
I have no idea because the game surfaces nothing about how any of this works or how to find any of the things it says you need. So here's the secret. I just don't use weapons in every Yakuza game besides the ones I find on the floor very occasionally. Like every single campaign, they're like, I recognize when the conversation is starting where they're about to introduce Cameo Works again for the 75th time, and then I skip it. I'm like, oh, that's that guy. I know about that guy. Fuck him. He's literally useless.
Comes from the interface not teaching you anything. There's no dedicated interface for any gameplay mechanics in Yakuza, as far as I can tell. It's all like simple menus and just up, down.
It all feels like when you encounter a vestigial mechanic from 2 expansions ago in an MMO that just like is still waiting for you on a peninsula somewhere for you to be jump scared by and be like, oh, there's a whole fucking town you can build here for some reason. And if you never walk over there, you'll never discover this like fucking 30-hour time sink in this MMO because it's never referenced ever again. And it's from 3 years ago and no one talks about it. Like it's that kind of element. It's baffling.
Wow. I don't have that experience, but I don't play MMOs.
I don't. I do not like crafting systems at all in most games because it does lead me to get like I am very much one of those kind of people that
they have to be so simple. It has to be red green yellow herb. Like it has to be Resident Evil herbs.
But you can have things like Factorio or Satisfactory where it's the point of the game. But
that's just genuinely a different category of video game.
Yeah, it's a different game. Yeah. But like cramming crafting, I don't understand why companies insist on having crafting in their games.
Because it makes people feel like they're doing more.
Yeah, and it's literally loading, right? You can add more time to the play because
so lazily.
Yeah. And then I don't use it.
So much of gaming, of popular gaming now is just being unleashed into a structureless blob map and just kind of self-directing, just passively doing 50 different adjacent tasks and not even questioning how like most of the stuff you do will never amount to anything and isn't actually contributing to anything. You just have congratulations, you have 500 twigs. Like enjoy Genshin Impact.
So there's like a good, I don't know. God, Genshin Impact is like the worst fucking.
Yes.
Like, okay, here's my other thing. If you have a crafting system, you must, and I mean must, give me some kind of way to store that shit. Like, it needs to be somewhere that I can put it and unlimited. Because if I am forced to pick up every fucking blade of grass I see, and then I have to carry it with me for 50 years, I am going to be mad. Let me just toss it somewhere and then I can just craft with it later. So I can just say, hey, I was smart and I checked my environment and I found all the things. Now let me go put it somewhere in a video gamey style storage system. It doesn't have to be real. I don't need to have like a fucking fanny pack around me that's like, oh, I got 4 slots and I can only fit my cell phone in one of them. Like I just give me a box. I'll put the stuff in the box, and then I'll come back later when it's time to craft, and I'll take the stuff out of the box and craft it. It's just I hate that. I hate stuff that like Stardew Valley or things where it takes up your inventory. And I get that the point. Like, right, Stardew is about management. It's like about inventory management and other stuff.
Yeah,
but
I would 100% don't mind something like Stardew Valley, because that is a structured experience that makes sense, and you are thinking about the things you want and why you want them. So it means
absolutely
something.
I just mean that like those are things that annoy me in those games, is that I need to manage my inventory, and I don't want to. And if there's a genre for that, like Stardew, then it's fine. It's a whole genre that I can like put into a box, close the box, and throw it off a cliff and never deal with it. But when it comes up in other games, I'm like, why are you here? Go in the box. That's where I want this. Like, why are you mixing these things? I don't want to have to inventory management in the middle of a game where I also need to ammo inventory management. Like, I don't like Resident Evil is like the closest you can get before that starts breaking the structure. I'm willing to like maintain most Resident Evil inventory systems, but when you get to like beyond that, when you get to like, oh, carry like 15 pieces of wood and like 2 like screws, so that, like what's it called? A good example is Dead Rising. Dead Rising is like this, where it's like, I need you to carry a bunch of random shit. I'm like, okay, look, I'm going to be real with you. Most of my inventory is going to be weapons, and I don't really want to waste my time carrying a bunch, like 15 different items so I can make this really big hockey stick. I don't want to do that. Like, I just don't want to do that. I want to like,
I think people
want to put my things away.
You don't want that.
I'm sure people do, but that's what I'm saying. Is like there's a whole genre for that. Put it in the genre. I want to play the game.
I mean, I'm with
where
you.
I make a weapon and punch zombies in the face with it. I don't want to make the game where I'm going down to the mall, literally shopping, going back to the station, making a weapon, running back to go get more items with that new weapon I made. And like, you see the pattern here. It becomes like the game is about progressing through a story, but I just get stuck doing fucking shopping lists because I don't have the inventory space to just carry things and then make them as I need them. I have to go like and manage inventory on top of this other game I'm trying to play. Like, I just want to play the game. I don't want to, like, or God of War. Like, I don't want to go through and have to sift through fucking like items and figure out which tunic looks good on me. I don't give a fuck. I want to kill things. That's the whole point of God of War. I want to walk around, throw an axe at somebody, and then pull them back and beat the living crap out of them. I don't want to sit there and be like, boy, did you make sure and put on the pants I bought you at Payless Shoe Store? And it's like, I don't want to do that. It's like not interesting to me. And it's just like there's sometimes you can see like it is like bloating. You're putting too many mechanics into one game, and you can just be efficient about it. You can just be like Tomb Raider 1 about the game. You don't need to be like Tomb Raider whatever the newest one is, where it's like, okay, this is a lot. I don't want to do it like half of this. Can we just cut this out and pretend like we're Nathan Drake again? Like, haha, just puzzles and movies. Like, it's fine. You don't need to get weird about it. You can still have upgrades. I'm fine with that if you want to be like, hey, there's like 3 MacGuffins that turn your machine gun into a chainsaw. Like, okay, that's fine. But make those MacGuffins not take up my inventory space. Or like, oh, I can't hold any more bullets because I have 3 MacGuffins in my hand. It's like, what the fuck? I don't want to do that. Like,
something that always fascinated me and still does is there's this weapon in Fallout 3 that allows you to fire random junk at enemies, and I don't remember what it's called. Actually, I do. It's called the rocket, or rocket. It's called the Roadhog. So yeah, it's basically it is kind of like the Roadhog weapon, yeah. But it's a unique weapon. It's like a special weapon that you need to craft, and like I think there's an associated quest or small quest where you collect the crafting recipe or whatever. But like that weapon never I played at the time of release. I played Fallout 3 twice to the end, and then over the years I played it to the end a couple more times, probably including DLC and stuff. And I never remembered that weapon. And like apparently that's a lot of people's memory from Fallout 3 is having the rocket launcher and just like chucking teaspoons and plates at people and just junk and whatever. Because what I think what's happening is that people do collect all the junk in Fallout 3, and Fallout 76 is basically that of you collecting all of the junk. but yeah, people do collect all the junk in Fallout 3, so they have an outlet in that rocket launcher where they can just get rid of the junk and throw it at enemies, and kill them like that. But I just never did. I played Fallout 3 every time I play it in basically any Bethesda game as well. I just don't collect the junk. I don't. I select my items when I get them. So I have a teaspoon and I have a sword.
Such the opposite. I'm the asshole who, like, you could go into any building and like a Fallout game and there will be a box with all of my shit in it. I will just have hundreds and hundreds of apples, and I don't know why I have all these apples. I pick up I am a kleptomaniac in those games.
Oh my god!
Like, I hate Bethesda games because I just sit there and I walk into a room and I'm just like yoink 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 yoink, and I'm like, I'm over encumbered. How? And I look, I'm like, why do I have 50 bottles of whiskey on me? What am I going to do with that? And then I like an idiot because I don't know. Yeah, why did I pick them up?
So I just sit there and kick them all back. Loot because you'd want them.
Yeah, it's so weird. Like I'm so ingrained. Like modern games are so much about like you need to pick up everything around you because it's very vital. Where like then I play a Bethesda game, like do I pick this up? I don't know. And I just like, it's like you go to a supermarket and push the whole shelf into your cart. That's like what it is every time I walk into a room. And I did that for. I hated that. I did that for Outer Worlds, and I could not fucking stop. I literally was like getting mad at myself because I would like go and because I did not have a companion, so I could not get my
in Outer Worlds.
Oh, it really is.
But I could not. I did not have a companion, so I couldn't offload my shit onto somebody. I had to just carry it all myself, and so I would just go into a room. Well, I just didn't pick up any companions. I had the robot, but I also had a phobia of robots on accident, so I couldn't use the one companion I was willing to have. So like, I really got fucked there. I didn't know about the phobia system. It was just like, hey, do you want to take a fear of robots in exchange for this? Like, sure, I guess. What's the worst that can happen? It was like, by the way, all robots make you do like take more damage or whatever. I was like, what? Okay. And then it was like, oh, then I'm building a robot for myself. That's cool. And then it showed up and came along with me. It was like,
of them.
Man, I'm not doing very good damage on these enemies. This gun sucks. And I look, it's like permanent -2 robot. I was like, there's no robots here. And I turn around, there's like my little clunking idiot following behind me. Like, are you fucking this guy's scaring me? All right, we'll go back to the ship, you idiot.
He is pretty funny and scary.
He's like hilarious, dude.
He's kind of scary in that he wants to cleanse all life. Like he's a cleaning robot that has decided that his job is to delete living creatures.
Me too, dude. Me too. That's all I'm doing. We were so good together.
I can.
Right, for real. Me too, man. And we were doing so good together.
For real. He's just like me.
Like me. But I couldn't because I was terrified of him. I had a phobia of this man. I was so distraught. It was like the most disappointing thing. It was I went through so much effort to make him too. I did all of the questing for it. I like went out of my way to go get this. I was so excited. I kicked every other person off my ship. I was like, get the fuck out. I got a robot now. I don't need any of you. And it was like, you can't use him. I was like, oh man, what the fuck? And so anyways, I didn't have a companion, so I couldn't offload my shit, which meant I had to carry it all myself, which means every time I go into a room, I would find myself literally just like yoink, 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 just grabbing all this stuff. And someone's sitting there like, let me tell you about the bad economy in the world. I'm like, hold on, I'm grabbing like 15 boxes of Cheerios. And you're just like grabbing all these things. And they're not useful. Like I would
nothing.
It doesn't matter. Never. Like I'm telling you right now, I beat the entire game and both DLCs, and not fucking once did I eat a goddamn piece of food. I didn't eat a single piece of food in the entire game, and I played that thing on hard. I just had so many health packs. I didn't need the
health packs are everything.
So like
the only time I ever opened my giant nightmare inventory of 500 incomprehensible food items was whenever I had any kind of like skill gate, and I was like, okay, let's look through all of these to see if one of these happens to, and that's torture. Trying to look through all of them to see like, does one of these make my charm go up by 1? And they're
the inventory item, the equipable.
It's such an underutilized mechanic too, because almost none of them do anything interesting. It's just 500 identical items that are branded as different food items to be like storytelling kind of, but like they didn't have to be pick upable. They didn't have to all be inventory items. You could have just had branding in the game in general without having me have to pick up 500 different things that are all the same item but called different things. It's just such clutter.
There's a lot of wasted effort in Outer Worlds. I think Like, for example, the fact that you can read the descriptions of every character in the game by pressing, is it Q? Think to inspect.
You can inspect characters in that game when you're looking at them?
Yeah. You know that thing that goes into slow mode? I don't know if it's Q or whatever key it is, but if you look at NPCs or enemies as well, you get a description of them, which I thought was cute, because that's how Fallout 1 and 2 does. You can see the description of any character, which is equivalent of you asking the narrator in your tabletop role-playing game. You ask the narrator or the game master, hey, tell me about this character. And if your character is very perceptive in Fallout 1, for example, you can tell better things about the character. And if your character is not very perceptive, then you can tell as well.
He has brown hair.
Wow, and if your character's not very charming, and if your character's not very charming in Fallout 1, you just get attacked by everyone and you don't know why.
By everyone, yes, that is also.
And then you don't experience the. That was my playthrough of Fallout 1. It was miserable. I got almost
open the door and people were shooting at you. You're like, my God! I got almost none of
the quests in the game, basically, because every time I walked into a room to talk to people, they would just hate me permanently. Like two lines in the conversation, everyone hated me, and then they would just like leave this town. And like I missed most of the companions. So like I watched the H Bomber Guy video, and it's like, aha, you could do a whole sting operation with the Fat Man, and there's a whole thing about like who should run this town, and there's like so many stages of secret stuff going on in these quests, and I'm like, everyone just hated me instantly and started shooting me, and that was the whole quest.
Now you know what it's like to play Andrew in any RPG.
That's whole game in a nutshell. I think Fallout wasn't necessarily very different. The game was just meant for you to not see it. So just
I've just played 500 RPGs where I have the magic win button. I pick the stat that just makes you win conversations, and I'm like, just this once, I'm gonna try doing the other thing, because I've always heard stuff about how interesting it is how the Fallout franchise has like low intelligence dialogue, or like, let's for once just actually have to solve problems without just winning every conversation. But Fallout's the worst game to do that with, because instead of just removing your win op button, they make you auto fail everything in the entire game. Like you literally can't talk to people to have quests. Like you just have to like
think about it.
Just every faction immediately hates you, and you just have to like fucking know mechanics through the entire game.
Think about it like this. It was a very unique experience, and the next time you play the game, you're going to get a very different experience.
Will I replay that game? I'll just play the sequel, and then everyone's going to be calling back, and the game's just going to call back to a bunch of NPCs I never met. And I'm like, don't you remember that guy?
Do that.
I already know it will, because Tandy's in like 5 of these games, apparently. I never even met her.
Oh, you didn't? But that's because he didn't look around hard enough.
No,
she looked just like all the other people.
Likes him.
Because everybody hates me.
I don't think
know who Tandy is.
You didn't click.
Everyone's
on
like, look, Tandy's old in this game. I'm like, who's Tandy?
She doesn't matter too much. It's fine for you not to know her.
Look, I'll be honest with you. My fault. Like a lot of the reason I struggle to beat Fallout New Vegas is that everybody hates me, and it starts to become really exhausting when everyone starts sending people to kill you. Like when you're just walking around and you're doing your like life and you're living it like you normally should, and you just see like in the distance you see a fucking Caesar's Legion, and you're like, I swear to God, if these guys come after me, and you're just like doing your shit, and you look behind you, and those motherfuckers are still coming at you, and you're like, oh, God damn it! So you pull out your shit, you throw bombs everywhere, you get ready, and then they show up and they're like, halt! You need to die for Caesar. And it's like, okay, start combat, and they just blow up instantly, and you're like, I'll see you guys in fucking 2 hours, I guess. And then you just go back on with life. Like, I hate that. But I also refuse to acknowledge them as anything but less than human. So I won't talk to them. I won't give them any time of day. I'll kill every single one that shows up. But it's also frustrating that I get punished for that. But it is...
Yeah, you do miss out on a few dialogues if you're...
But yeah, you miss out on stuff. Like, it is... Like, I walked into a town, and they were like burning people on crosses or whatever, and I didn't even get to figure out what was going on in that town. I just showed up, and they were like, hey, get that guy. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I like was saving people, and those people were like, hey, get that guy. And I was like, fuck, man, I gotta get out of here. Like, this whole town is bad. Like, it's just an all around, I'm just basically like this vagrant that shouldn't be in the Fallout universe.
Stop. You violated my sensibilities.
Exactly. Like Good
think
Springs
New
is the
Vegas-
only place that likes me, and that's only because I literally like live there, so I didn't want to piss anybody off. So like all of my boxes and everybody's homes were filled with my shit. So I had to be like nice to them because I didn't want to kill them. But like everywhere else is just like I can't even go into like Vegas. I go into Vegas and the robots attack me. I'm like, what am I supposed to fucking do here? So I just walk through Vegas like a deity, and I'm just like blowing up all of security and walking through the fucking casino and going to the very top and talking to fucking Mr. House, and he's like,
There's so much content
what
in
the
Vegas
fuck
if
are
you
you
don't kill them.
He's like, what are you? Yeah, he's like, what are you doing here? Like, how are you alive? It's like, don't worry about that. Give me the quest. I'm here for the quest. Like, just okay, do the thing. Okay, and then just walk off. And again,
you're just sprinting in and out of these hell towns the same way that I sprinted in and out of the mountain in Breath of the Wild without having any like damage reduction for the fire.
Yeah.
I was like,
it
Hi,
feels like it literally. Yeah, exactly. It literally feels like I'm a death claw in every room I go in. Like immediately everyone's like, that thing has to die. I'm like, what did I do? I don't even know you people. I just got here. Like, fuck. And it's just, all right, I guess I'll just kill all of you because I don't have any choice, right? I can't like. It's annoying when you try to go like do a conversation and people just come through the walls, basically, just flooding through doors. And there's like, I can't even leave through the damn door I came through in because there's just a bunch of enemies now. And so it's just like, okay, I have to kill all of you, but that makes you all mad. So what do you people want from me? Leave me alone. I didn't even talk to you. Like, it's just, I didn't even have to like, there was a quest where it was like, oh, I need you to go find a guy and get a key off him. I don't even know who that guy was. I literally walked into a building and just like everyone attacked me. So I killed all of them. And I don't know which one was the guy or what he says or anything. He just was dead. And I picked up a key off of him. And
flashback to playing Deathloop where there's supposed to be these interesting iconic villains. And it's always like, oh, everyone in this entire building is attacking me. Oh, I killed. Okay. I won. And like midway through the fight, you get a random notification that one of them was the important character and you killed them. I'm like, that was where was they?
Dude,
I literally didn't even notice them. That's how impactful they were. It's such a step down from like BioShock villains and stuff.
I tried playing Deathloop because I thought from the sound of it, it sounded like, okay, it's like a Hitman, but more up my pace. It's more of my style. I like to be a crazy person. And
it has that gameplay. You get to do that.
But let
the
me
storytelling
tell you
doesn't
how fucking easy it is to not do that. Like, I've wiped these towns. Like, I walked in the first area and one, no one moved. I don't know what that was about. But two, that I just walked through this town. I just kept walking and people were like, who are you? Headshot. Who are you? Headshot. And I just repeated that. I would walk into rooms and people would be like, there's Colt, get him. And I would just never see those people. I don't know where they went. I don't even know if they exist. I just heard a sound bit. And I would just go through, rummage through my stuff, walk outside, and just keep going. I went through like, I cleared the whole fucking first area. And I didn't even know where I was supposed to go after. I just was lost. I killed everyone here. Am I supposed to go somewhere? And I spent like an hour trying to figure out how to get back to my stupid home because I got lost. And it just... What the hell? What is this? Who was... And somebody was a good guy I was supposed to kill. Or not a good guy, but there's some like guy that I was supposed to kill. I don't even know who that was. I don't think
you got that right at the start.
There's some guy in some kind of factory with a bunch of guns in it, and you're supposed to kill the guy in there. And I guess I did. I didn't even know who it was from all the other guys that kept running down the stairs and going in front of the turret I set up. Like, I just set a turret up in front of the bottom of the stairs and just kept getting people to fall for it over and over again. And it just, at some point I was like, I don't know what these games are made for. I just have to admit that like Fallout, Deathloop, games where it's like about, I guess Deathloop and Fallout are two different games, but like the idea that a lot of it is about experiencing story within the mechanics of a game you're playing like that, where you're like, it's all things are happening. Like, you're supposed to go to a conversation. Someone's like, man, Cole smells like beef jerky. And he's like, I don't smell like beef jerky. And then like, you're supposed to get those little moments. And I don't get those moments. I just show up to a place and people like just start attacking me, or I like accidentally killed him before the dialogue happens because I didn't know that was supposed to happen. I'm just doing a thing. I'm busy. I'm trying to do the objective. Like
Deathloop felt so massively disappointing because you never have an interaction with like any of the villains besides the one that's talking in your ear the entire game.
So like, my God, and she just will not shut up. It's like, look, hey, wait, can we fight? Like, can we just fight? I promise we can solve this right now. And it's just, and yeah, and sure enough, like the first time I interacted with that character, it's like, oh, you gotta fight her for the first time. The game had to like pull a fast one on me to get rid of her. Like, it had to just do this thing of like, nope, she's gone now. I was like, where did she go? And then it just made me fall out a window. And I was like, what? Like, what happened? Wait, what happened? What the fuck?
Was that in the cutscene?
Yeah, I think the cutscene was fall out the window, but like she showed up and she was gone instantly. Like there wasn't even a fight. I just took her out immediately and she was gone.
Oh yeah, that happens. That's absurd. I don't know that.
Okay, I guess that's a villain. And she's like, I got you, Cole. And I was like, you got me what? I don't even know where you are. You evaporated. You like dusted away.
You know what Deathloop feels like? A game that was designed for only some enemies to have weapons. And then at the end of the development cycle, they decided, you know what? All enemies, all NPCs should have weapons. And then they threw everything out the window. Because I
kind of wish, like, I also wish everyone's personality wasn't just like, I like murder, I like drugs, and I'm like,
You mean like it was designed to have people that just like are hanging out?
They're hanging out, yeah, and because they have so many routines where they're just
having hitman crowds.
Yeah.
That's what I thought Deathloop was going to be. I thought it was going to be more like Hitman.
Yeah. Instead, literally the entire map is populated with people that are trying to shoot you on sight, and it's like, all right,
everyone hates you, and I'm like,
it's incredibly hard to even start to do anything without alerting the entire map.
You can't hear their conversations very well because you're always afraid of being spotted. You can't. Like you can't interact with
I became that was the game that made me incredibly hyper aware. Well, this happened during Dead Space, I guess, is that Dead Space made me very hyper aware of the mid to late 2000s shtick of sticking someone behind glass so you can't shoot them, and then they talk about and then they say stuff. Like, because that's your chance to have like various villains like menace you for a bit, or it's the chance for various NPCs to like die where you can't help them. Like in BioShock, there's that the botanist lady gets like gassed behind glass, and like in Dead Space, there's nothing more dangerous than an NPC that's on your side being behind glass, because that means a monster is gonna come up behind them and kill them every single time. And it's just like it's like constantly a chance to like, have any kind of narrative moment happen, and it be justified that you don't just shoot them without making it like a cutscene or whatever. And like
BioShock did a good job of introducing Big Daddies that way. That was fun because you meet the Big Daddy behind glass and he flies into the wall and you're like, huh! Like there's a moment of like fear where it comes like barreling at you because he's killing the guy and you're like, oh my God, like this is great. This is what you should be using the glass walls for, to make me like want to shoot the person, but not because I'm like a violent maniac, but because I'm like scared for my life. Like, that's great.
But like as artificial as that is, it gives you FaceTime with things that matter for why you care about the game. And that never happens in Deathloop. So as a result, it's like, I know about the furry because he's the loudest character in the game, and I know about none of the other villains. Like that guy is so incredibly obnoxious and pissing off every other character, and you even carry around a little doll that's him, like an interview with him. Like everything is about how loud his personality is. I don't know. I couldn't tell you the name of another character. Like every other villain was just around, and they all just shot you with guns, and they were in a crowded area full of other people that looked like them, and you just mowed them. Like there definitely was text throughout the game that you could analyze and unpack, and I read it all at the time, but it just wasn't as impactful as actually ever encountering characters in an actual, visual narrative experience of some kind.
Like they did for the ending, for example. Like
there's cutscenes at the end. All of a sudden, you're like, "Why is this game? This game suddenly has has in-engine cutscenes that tell a story." They only do this with other cults.
I think the reason is that they did want you, from a design perspective, from a game design perspective, they did want the player to be able to shoot anybody at any time. Partly because, or I imagine partly because, you're supposed to repeat the same things over and over again. So having to go through cutscenes like over and over again without just being like, okay, today you're saying this, but I'm going to shoot you in the head.
I think almost every element of the game is just kneecapped by the fact that they tried to force a very unfun multiplayer into the game. And so now you can't have cutscenes, and you can never pause the game, and all the game happens in real time, and you can get shot in the middle of reading a document now because nothing ever stops the game ever.
Yeah, I didn't like that.
And yes, you can turn off the multiplayer, but you can't turn off them designing the game around multiplayer.
Yeah,
like they still made it around multiplayer, so you're never gonna get back the cooler game you would have had if they didn't make it around multiplayer to begin with. And that's on top of the fact that that's on top of how they like revamped the whole game to be way less interesting by making it just a series of linear tasks that you follow objective markers to. So the whole game is just shittier Moon Crash. It's so confusing.
I did not.
Have you played Moon Crash, Andrew?
Is that the DLC for
that's the Prey DLC that's like a roguelike. Yeah. It is literally
I hated,
it's every idea that Deathloop has but done correctly. It still doesn't have like it's still not full of like BioShock villains with like big narrative screen time and everything. Like it's just you trying to it's more like you trying to solve this environment.
I feel like
the enemy encounters at least were properly challenging in Moon Crash.
I'm like so bad at going back. I still haven't played like the Breath of the Wild DLC. Like
I
I'm
only
so bad
did
at
it
going
recently.
back.
I still haven't played Death of the Outsider.
I'm going to play it soon. Death of the Outsider.
I feel like
Death of the Outsider is a new game though. It isn't a DLC.
It's basically DLC.
Well,
it's like an expansion to the existing game or whatever.
I think it's a separate install.
Maybe it's functionally DLC. Sometimes they make a $20 DLC after a game comes out, and it's like it's right on the tails and it uses most of the same assets and engine and everything, and it's like it's DLC, but we want people to actually buy it because we notice people don't buy DLC. So why don't we just sell it as like a mini game?
Yeah, I think so far like the only and probably too a lot of the time for me at least with DLC is why I don't buy it is because it never really adds value because it always happens. Most of the DLC I would buy tends to be games for like RPG games, and those tend to take place like in the middle of the game, which is really infuriating to try and play after you've beaten it. And so I just like instinctively don't bother with DLC because my mind just goes to like, oh, this is going to be some kind of crap I have to go back and play the game through, or it's just going to be in the middle of it and not make any sense to me. And then I just don't bother with it. Whereas like, I don't know, I think.
Well, I was gonna say, or you do it like I used to do, which is if an RPG comes out that I know is gonna have DLC, I don't get it at release. I just wait until all the DLC are out.
That's a smart idea, but I'm not a very smart guy, and so I do make the mistake of playing games well before DLC comes out for them. And so then I just get like this. I just keep getting incredibly burnt by it, and I hate it. But then there's like I had to go out of my way to buy like the Mario Kart DLC. Because I totally forgot it was a thing. I didn't even think about it. And then I think I was like going on a trip somewhere and I was like, I'll bring my Switch. And I looked, I was like, oh yeah, Mario Kart has DLC, right? I guess I'll check that out. And like, that was the best purchase I've made in my life. Like they're amazing maps and it's great and it's fun, but it's like, normally I just don't even think about DLC. Like even if it's there for a game I like, I will just ignore it because it straight up doesn't, it's just not something that adds value to me. Like most of the time I ever purchase it. So it's just this like, all right. And I just don't think about the games I beat. I just move on from them. I don't look at them again. And I just like, there's a sea of them. I'll just go to the next one. So I was like, DLC, too late now. That game's like 50 years in my brain. I won't remember it from now. I don't remember how to do anything in it. Like, it's too late now. Like, it's just.
There's definitely rough examples where like in more recent years they made it so that the later Dark Souls sequels, when you beat the game, you often don't have to end your playthrough and you can just leave it in stasis and then go back and play the DLC when it comes out, and you play the DLC by just like wandering over to where the DLC starts. But like Dark Souls 1 was like 50% through the playthrough there's a weird trigger with a specific NPC in a specific location that all causes you to like time travel into like Artorias the Abyss land and whatnot. And like there's increasingly for a while there was DLCs that would like they were essentially meant to make your next playthrough more interesting. And like Disco Elysium's updates were like this, where it's like when I went back and tried to cover the communist content because I had a communist save, I was like, it was so hard to just extract that content because you had to like do a series of events over the course of like 4 days, and the entire concept of time passing in Disco Elysium is tied to performing actions and not waiting time, and you can't like sleep and so on, and it's like so difficult to pass time just to blitz through to do side content in what is essentially a shitty timeline versus like actually playing the game correctly, which is that you have all these like event filled days. And like I was like, Breath of the Wild was one of those things where I was so afraid to play the DLC at some point, because I played the first DLC right on the tail of beating the game, because my playthrough took so long that the DLC was out already. But the second DLC, it's like, here's an entire expansion to play. I don't even remember what the inventory is like in this game. Like other Zeldas, it's like, oh, I just have a toolbox of some funny items. Like, this is what this mask does. That's what that thing does. Like those, I could pick up a Zelda game halfway through its playthrough, and at most I'd have to just like check a guide real quick just to have a refresher on what my next objective probably is. But like, I'd be like, oh yeah, that's the claw shot, that's the bomb. Like you just have one screen of items that all do a thing, and if you don't remember what they are, you can check. But Breath of the Wild is like, here's 500 inventory systems, an entire cooking metagame, and like all these bizarre things that you like organically, you like kind of organically dove into the complexity of that over the course of like 40 hours. But trying to come back 6 months later or 2 years later to play the DLC, you're like, fuck, this is like endgame content, and this is an entire game I don't know how to play anymore. It was so intimidating. And even when I tried
exactly,
preparing
like,
for it, and it still didn't work.
That's just why it's like, okay, it's better just to not, I guess. I'll just leave this DLC here, and I hope everyone has a good time. It's just I don't want to do that. I don't want to like have to play every new game like 6 years after it comes out, to like, God forbid it gets any DLC or whatever.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of incentive to not play any RPG until 2 years later when the director's cut is already out.
Yeah.
Because like oftentimes they've revamped it, and they released the dialogue, and they fixed all of the game-breaking bugs, and also that one really irritating system that everyone hated has been smoothed over more. And like, it's almost always better to be like, I played Pillars of Eternity 5 years late.
Unless you play Wasteland 3, because now you've lost out on the best run, which is all animals.
Oh yeah,
sorry,
we played Wasteland in the perfect time where animals were hilariously overpowered, and the name of the zone would never leave the screen. What a finished game.
I love that I got that. I think
fucking Animal Companion was so comically overpowered by the time it was like we already knew it was strong when we had one character with really high level Animal Companion, but when we decided to give everyone like 2 points so they could just get a shitty baby animal, and we had an entire second party of animals, like even the shittiest babiest animals were so powerful compared to us, because they just wouldn't die and they just walk around and mow down everybody. Like we had entire fights where all of us died, and we just watched as the AI won the fight for us, because that game was just not well made.
The balancing was peculiar, to say the least.
So good.
Almost every gun I tried specializing in would never do damage compared to like a cat.
One elk could take an army, and you're like, Jesus.
You would have a character that had like level 9 energy weapons or whatever the fuck is a good number in that game. I don't remember how the leveling worked. And you trying to use the gun that you specialize in would like be completely useless. Then you would die, and then your fucking pet that you have 1 point into would just kill everything in the room while you watch the game play itself.
Yeah, that's a good thing. Can you imagine having to actually figure out how to beat the game when I would
like to play a game where I'd make interesting choices ever and was engaged instead of that.
I didn't find the combat particularly interesting in either Wasteland 2 or Wasteland 3.
I'm so conditioned to play almost every RPG in a particular way, where I'm mostly good and I have high speech check stat, and I try to complete the content of every zone as exhaustively as possible, which is a way of presenting it for an audience, but it's frustrating because they're supposed to be about choices and doing different things. And one of the most interesting things you can do in a game is be able to make choices outside of dialogue and like be like, oh fuck that, we're shooting that guy. That's like one of the coolest things you can put in a game. And I swear to God, like I chose the worst possible moment to have a low speech score, which was Fallout 1. And like in Wasteland 3, I chose like the worst possible moment to be like, you know what? We're gonna do an out of combat, we're gonna do an out of dialogue, shoot that guy moment, because both of us, me and Andrew, walked in a particular place and we're like, we hate this giant like fucking like Washington idol robot thing. Everything about this is bad. In fact, they even like have it they even have it murder a poor innocent robot right in front of you, just so you especially are like, fuck that guy. So we shot it, and then that just skips like 10 hours of story. Like, like you find it, not only does that skip everything in that zone, the next zone is also an entire area that's also just characters dealing with the previous zone, and half of them are mad at you for shooting the robot, even though it was introduced by shooting a robot, and this is the robot people. Like they're mad at you for taking robot revenge, and like, okay, so I guess we'll skip the story here too. And I'm like, it's just these games are never as good at they suggest a certain level of flexibility, but then there's like an element of like, there's like they slap it out of your hands, like, no, not like that. You're supposed to you're supposed to play the game 7 times first, the good way, to then know exactly how to have theoretically interesting playthroughs, but only in a heavily curated fucking like Prima game strategy guide sort of experience, and not like you actually organically experiencing a role-playing game.
It was frustrating.
100% right.
There were a lot of very frustrating moments, especially once we got, that was like a very big turning point. I felt like we hit that spot and went like, okay, this is starting to become really annoying now. And I think I remember there's like something even like close to the end of it, someone was mad at us for doing that. I was like, fuck off, dude, leave us alone.
Was he not the main, the main guy?
I mean, the main guy does. I think he does. I mean, he gets. Look, the patriarch is a fucking hilarious character. Most, like, that guy.
He's the most trampleable cuck I've ever seen as a villain in any game. He's like, oh man, I'm sure mad at you for killing my son. You better not kill my son again. Oh dang, you killed my other son. Oh, I'm so mad now. You better not do that again. Oh fuck, you killed my daughter. Oh, I'm so. Oh man. He keeps not doing anything about it because the game is so inflexible. He has to only have a fight at one specific moment if that's the ending you choose, and that's it.
You know what? Yeah. That's why I really respect Fallout 1. In Fallout 1, you can be captured by the super mutants, and they take you to their lieutenant. The lieutenant is like, "Hey, we are doing this thing. We're trying to find your vault. Can you tell us where your vault is? Because we want to turn everybody into super mutants." And you can tell the lieutenant. You can tell him where the vault is, and you get a special ending
where you fucking slimed the entire human population into mutants who will then all die because of the plot thing.
They don't die, they get turned into super mutants.
No, because the future of the super mutants are fucked.
Well, you don't know that at the time, and the ending doesn't tell it. But
this is bad news.
But yeah, you can do that, and I super respect that. Obviously, it is, as you say, you don't necessarily do that in your first playthrough, and if you do, you're going to be like, oh, that sucks. I'm going to reload, or I'm going to start again. But you do that after you know the game inside and out, and you're like, okay, let's try this thing. But it is a limitation of RPGs, and it's the reason why BioWare and Bethesda don't put actual choices into their games, is because even the smallest hint of you being able to affect anything leads to you being like, wait a minute, that didn't really affect anything. So what they do is they allow you to be nasty or nice to the enemy that you're going to end up having to kill anyway. So, you know,
it still cracks me up thinking about it. I love just how mad he was every time we went.
He was super mad. Yeah.
Every fucking time he was just so fucking mad, and you can tell that he's just like, he wants to just kick your ass so bad, but he just can't. Like, nobody else in this entire shitty planet can help him but you. And he's just so mad you keep fucking it up every time. It's great. Like, God, what a great character. Only to just die in 2 shots at the end of the game. Like
He died in one
crazy
shot for me
wild.
because I insta-critted him with an Armageddon kind of weapon.
Didn't we shoot him with like the America laser or something? Like,
Yeah, we shot him with like the U.S. tank that we had
like,
or whatever. Or, like, no,
like it just like
Yeah, we had
screams
the
the
American
anthem while
themes.
lasering people.
That's true. I forgot about that.
Credit for having a legitimately funny weapon in a stupid fight
like-
where you instantly
they know
kill
how to do
people.
that.
I had
They know how
a
to do that.
lot
I
of
almost
fun.
never like the
I-
actual. I mean, I hate the comedy weapons in almost every game, like Fallout 3 and Outer Worlds. But that thing's
Oh, yeah, yeah,
hilarious. The fucking
That thing's
American anthem,
stupid.
Star Spangled Banner, death laser is fucking hilarious.
And using it against this guy who's got like the biggest fuck off America tank ever. It's just like full of flags and all this stuff. And it's just like the one little America beam just takes him out. It's so dumb. It's just
I'm just amazed
God.
that In Exile managed to make like the most embarrassing villain in the history of video games, but he's not like a sniveling, like meant to be embarrassing villain. He's not like one of those like
yeah.
he's not one of those like subversion, those like expectation subversive like Yakuza end bosses where it's like he's a big coward or whatever. It's like, no, it's just he's just like, he's supposed to be the biggest, toughest, scariest motherfucker ever, but he's completely defanged by their inability to have him ever follow up on his threats unless you actually just shoot him in his office. Like the only way he will ever attack you is if you literally attack him, which is its own kind of goofy, because you can just shoot him and then that ends that storyline with him, I believe. Which means he should be able to attack you if you piss him off enough, but they're so afraid that someone would take such a path that they would like lock themselves out of a few regions of content by choosing to piss him off every region, that they just make him embarrassing, even though they will lock you off entire regions of content elsewhere. It's just that's the thing that's only allowed to happen if you ever engage with the out of dialogue stuff. It can never happen via dialogue option choices.
Look, they spent a lot of money on that voice actor, and they weren't going to let it go to waste. Okay.
I like how one of the sons we killed, we didn't even know he existed.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, the last
like,
one, I imagine.
Like two of them are kind of like warmongery. Like one of the sons and daughters are kind of like big personality people. One of them's just like in a room full of people you fight, and we didn't even notice him. He just kind of died at some point during the fight, and we never met him.
Yeah.
Wasteland 3 is a goofy ass game.
It got
embarrassing.
Almost 13,000 reviews on Steam, compared to Wasteland 2 that has 4,500.
Wow. Wasteland 2 was definitely better though, wasn't it?
I think if I had to replay any of these games, I probably would go for the Wasteland 3 than Wasteland 2. Yeah, Wasteland 2 just draws out too much at the end, I think. And Wasteland 3 is just more compartmentalized, so as long as you're having fun with the combat.
And if you ever get bored, you can just shoot him in his office, and then the game ends up, presumably. I don't know.
Maybe.
What else does it do at that point?
I think so. There's something
funny about a game you can end at any point. Like I think Two Worlds is the game that just tells you your objective right at the beginning. It's like, go over there and kill that guy, and then you try going that way and you get obliterated. But like any moment where you're strong enough, you can just go over there and end the game, I guess. Like Breath of the Wild. And going by speed runs, Breath of the Wild's time to kill is like a minute. Like turns out you don't need to play the world.
The problem with replaying Wasteland 3 though is that the endings are all accessible at the end. So like it's one of those RPGs that doesn't really incentivize you to replay the game, because you can just reload a save and see the other endings at the end. Which is
anyway, long podcast. How you doing, everybody? We're back.
No arguments though.
Probably won't be back next week because we'll probably finally do more Outbreak, maybe.
Hopefully.
Oh,
hopefully.
I hope so.
I want to finish that game. It's really fun.
It is.
Yeah, I've been having fun. I want to finish it too.
The Outbreak games are immediately one of my favorite Resident Evil games. Like that's incredibly underrated.
They're very I feel like I get a lot more invested than I do with any other Resident Evil game. I'm suddenly a lot more motivated when there's like 3 other people running around.
There's good Resident Evil co-op.
Yeah.
And it's not just Gears of War.
I was gonna say
that's incredible.
God.
Anyway, see you guys next time. You can ask questions at dialoguechoicespodcast@gmail.com. It's spelled Dialogue, spelled the way that this is spelled on your screen. not the other way. That's the test. If you spell the other way, you don't get your question answered. I didn't check the email this time because we
It's
had
been a while.
We had story.
We had many things to talk about.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.